me a minute. Okay, you're good to go.
I make a motion, we open the special meeting.
Second?
Roll call, trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
That's me. Aye.
Off to a start.
Motion passes.
Okay, I make a motion, we go into executive session for the purpose of a human resource matter.
Second?
Trustee Marshall. Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, will the clerk please pause?
Whenever you guys are ready.
Oh, we're
We're early, I think.
Yeah, we're early, but
Yeah, you need to come out of
We just-
executive
Great,
and
great, okay.
close that meeting.
You got it.
I got it.
she's on it. I make a motion, we come out of executive session.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes. And we'll end that meeting.
Oh, I make a motion, we adjourn the special meeting.
Yep.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Can we hit pause, please?
Yep. Here she
Here she comes.
Intuition.
Am
I coming now? Do you want me to wrap up?
We don't.
Oh,
It's up to you. I can run things
wow.
until
Okay.
Gary. All right. All right, let me get back to this chair.
A little mini flag anywhere?
Oh,
No, you're
No flag.
no flag.
Yeah, so maybe
We'll just, I can bring up the flag.
Yeah.
To account.
We do it at
Are we,
some of our meetings.
She's looking for a flag on her phone.
oh, you're looking for a flag?
Probably
One
one,
moment, we're supposed to do the pledge.
probably one of the longest.
Oh, you know where our flag is? Hey, we have Jim on the, yeah, just happen to have a flag with you, thank you.
All right, well, then I won't look on my phone.
Okay, give us a minute. Yeah, Jim's a member of the church, so he knows
Ah,
where the
okay.
flag is.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Well, we could at least start with the
The open meetings law?
conflict, you know.
You can open the meeting.
I make a motion, we open the meeting. Is there a second?
I second.
Roll call, please.
Yes, trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, is there any board member with a conflict of interest or anything to disclose regarding the agenda items this evening?
I do not.
I do not.
I do not.
I have a conflict on number 2.
Okay, and I do not. With that being said, could you please review the open meeting compliance and certification?
Sure. For the public wishing to speak to a member, to an item, please provide your name and address and address to the board if you're on Zoom. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak directly to the board. If you wish for me to ask the question, put it into the chat function, not the chat, the Q&A. I've been doing that a lot lately. I do not respond to anything in chat. Outside of that, let's keep everything friendly and nice and cooperative.
Okay, with that being said, we have our wonderful neighbor Jim, who can bring the flag up, and let us stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks so much, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Is there any public comment on anything else other than the agenda items prior to this meeting? Yeah. Please step up and your name and address for the record, please. Hi, John.
John Limbeck, 62 State Street. At the last meeting, the board was talking about some construction projects they were going to do. And I got, I don't know what the village has looked at, but there's several contracting opportunities that I think could save the taxpayers quite a bit of money. New York State's Office of General Services not only allows but encourages municipalities to use a project procurement called piggybacking, where you work off another municipality's contract. If they've got, let's say, Fairport has a contract for finishing roads, doing sewer work, you can use the same project conditions, contractors, pricing, and it saves you all of that cost of putting together bids, running the bid process, and doing those negotiations. I did it quite successfully when I was doing schoolwork. And where I work now in the town of Rush, their DPW does quite a few projects using the piggybacking process. And the second suggestion, I know the village is looking to get their own documents for projects. I don't know if anybody's talked with Paul Schenkel over at the town, the Director of Public Works, because he has said that he would be more than willing to share documents with the village that with a little bit of wordsmithing could become village documents. So just wanted to bring that to the board's attention, see if we can save some money.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thanks so much, John. Anyone else wishing to make a public comment on anything other than the agenda this evening? Anybody online? Dorothea?
We have people online, but nothing as of this point.
Okay. You know, with that in mind, I'd just like to move on and just take a moment. We had a serious fire in our community over the weekend, I think many of you know, and we lost 2 neighbors. It was a 2-alarm fire, and we had over 70 firefighters show up at that fire. So I'd like to thank our first responders and also just have a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. I think because of we have so many public hearings at 6 o'clock, we're going to switch things a little bit on the agenda. And with that being said, I'd like to just start with the treasurer's report so we can kind of get that out of the way, followed by the clerk's report.
Okay. Village received the bill pay. Is there any questions or concerns? I don't think there's anything really that noteworthy in there.
Any quick questions or thoughts on that? Otherwise, a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the bill pay as presented.
A second. Roll call, please.
Okay, trustee Lightgift.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next we have is the financials for December.
Any questions on that?
We kind of went over this a little bit in our budget workshop, but here's the full set. Everything seems to be moving along as discussed. We've reviewed the areas I have of concern, and I'll be making some suggestions for some budget transfers.
And we've been hitting some targets as well.
Yeah.
Too, so.
But we are doing quite well in some areas, and other areas a little bit lacking, but that's usually how budget goes.
Right, we balance out.
So any questions or concerns with the financials?
Or is there a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the December financials as presented.
I second.
Okay, we have a second. Roll call.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgift?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Anything else? Any clerical?
No, nothing too much. I did start receiving your budget request. I would say please give them to me by noon Friday so we can get the packet out for next week. We do have a budget meeting, and I hope to have things out on Friday afternoon.
Okay, thank you so much.
That's all I got.
All righty. Next up, why don't we start with just an update from you, Dorothy, if you could, on the refuse district. And
It's me again.
Yep, just real quick, as many of you know, the board did pass a refuse district. The entire village will be one refuse district with the goal of reducing, obviously, wear and tear on our infrastructure, and also bills to the residents should be going down because there's a single bidder. The bid was awarded to SAREC. And so now we're in the process of moving forward with what that means to actually create the assessment within the district. So that's what, Dorothea, you've been working on with staff.
Yep, and we're hoping the mailing to the individual residents will be going out and owners this week. It has to go out. We've been working with the town and Michelle W. She, in her GIS department, she created the refuse district map. So I'll pass it if the board would like to take a look. I also thank Steve, our building inspector, who is jumping through hoops, helping me get this all together because it is quite detailed, the information. So I would say everybody keep that outlook for a piece of mail coming for us. There will be a public hearing at the next village board meeting on this for final approvals that are needed.
Can you give us the date of that meeting? Is it
February 11th.
February 11th? There will be a public hearing on the assessment that will be added on once a year to your tax bill, so it'll be streamlined. You won't have to pay any monthly fee or anything. It'll just go right onto your tax bill.
And we do hope that, and we should have representatives from SAREC, so if there's questions that the public needs, hopefully they'll be able to answer it. They should be the ones to answer all that. So far, the process is going smooth, and, all I say is keep an eye out for your mail.
So that public hearing is going to be on February 11th at 6 PM?
Yep, all our public hearings are at 6 p.m.
And we're anticipating a June 1st start? Is that kind of where we
Yes.
still are? Okay.
Yes, we're still shooting for, it has to be June 1st.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Because due to the thing. So what I would say to the residents right now is make sure you have your service canceling as of June 1st. Okay? In anticipation.
So when you're letting residents know how this process is going to pan out, is there going to be a snail mail kind of instructions or directions as to what
There's
residents need to do?
a letter that's been vetted by Jeff, took a look at it, the mayor's seen it, everything's all together. It's giving them information on the public hearing. It's telling them what the assessment cost is. And off the top of my head, I'm sorry, it's like
$349.14.
Beautiful.
Very
There you go. So that's going to be your yearly cost for weekly pickup for garbage and recycling
And that's going to go out via snail mail.
via snail mail.
And do we have any idea when that letter's going out?
As I said, I'm hoping to have it out by Thursday, the
Thursday. Thank you.
latest. I have to have it to the residents 10 days in advance.
Yes.
And then there's also, your sewer bills are going out as well, and there's also.
There's a reminder in the sewer bill as well about the hearing to keep your eye out for the mail. So we're kind of bombarding you about the refuse district, but we want you to be well aware of what's happening.
There are some properties on Sunset that are diagonal, some are included,
Yep.
some aren't.
If they're not fully within the village, we're not including them.
Okay, so if the property is not fully within, you're not including them.
Correct.
The one in the very southwest corner, I think it was 38. No, 34.
34.
It looks like it's not fully within the district, but it is included from a shaded.
It depends on how much it was in the district.
Okay. And is that something that you go to the property owner on, or is that something we made?
It was something we worked out with Michelle and looking at the assessment and looking at, how much they're paying in village taxes. And,
Okay, thank you.
It's a task because we're looking at we have to look at how many units, whether it's rental, how many units, it all affects everything. Okay?
Any other questions for Dorothy or anything you'd like to add on that?
And for everybody's interest, the map will go with the notice. So they'll get both pieces.
Anytime there might be a change in zoning hypothetically to switch from something to single-family, multifamily, residential from commercial hypothetically, we can update that map anytime we want.
I would think at the assessment time.
Yeah.
Am I
Because you're
right?
going to have to change the assessment.
Right, so it would just be at the annual assessment. Okay, thank you.
Yep, and then the other positive on this rate will stay stable for this tax year and next tax year, because it was a 2-year bid. So we will have no increases.
Okay, all right. And again, every household will be notified.
Yep.
So we'll keep you in the loop, and we'll also let residents know how to make that transition from your current hauler to the new hauler. So all of that will be, information for you folks. Okay. Good? All good on that? Okay.
I'm good.
All right, next up, hotel tax discussion. This came before the board briefly, and I just wanted to bring it back. I know, Lisa, your name's next to it, and I know you wanted it off the agenda. I chose to keep it on the agenda just to kind of let the public know that this is something that we're researching right now internally. And this would be a small tax on any hotel or bed and breakfast or short-term rental in the village. It would be a pass-through to whoever's renting the room. So it is not a burden on the owner per se. So it would just go on the bill as an addition. There's already a state tax and a county tax. The thought is that a small percentage, a small tax, we would be able to reinvest back into our village to take care of infrastructure and perhaps additional amenities along Shane Place, perhaps restrooms. Capture that, it would be an additional revenue stream. In the packet, and it's also available online, the staff has done some work internally just in terms of what the revenue stream potentially could look like, looking only at a 50% occupancy of any of these entities. And also took a look at what other municipalities within New York State, what they're doing in terms of a tax. And they did a range internally here of, I think, between 2% up to 4%.
Correct.
Other communities go up to 5%, some at 6%, depending. So the process of this, we're just kind of sorting through that. I don't know, Jeff, did you want to speak to any part of the process? I mean, this is really just early days researching what this could look like as an additional revenue source for the village.
Then it's the legislature who has to ultimately approve it.
Yeah, it does go, yeah, that's a good point. So if we were to resolve to do this, then it would have to go to the New York State Legislature in Albany and go through the process there on both sides of the ledge to get approval. So it's a process, but we wanted to let you know that this is something that we're looking at. Are there any other things you wanted to add? Yeah, Justin?
Can I just ask that you've got a useful list of the hotel tax in different municipalities, and it would be useful to include Monroe County's tax on that as well, because
Yeah,
I
the county.
believe they're 6%, and some of the other places were listed have maybe no county tax or lower.
Yeah,
county
it
tax.
varies county to county. That's a good point. Yep. So we can include that as well. Thank you. Any other comments from the board on this? It's just really more of an update. Okay. All righty. Next up, it had come before the board about changing our election date, the month of the elections, because it's a little nippy in March and we have a lot of snowbirds. And so it sort of, impacts potentially voter turnout and all the rest that goes with having winter. The board, the 4 trustees had originally voted to put together a resolution to change the date to June. Right now, and I would like to have, as a referendum, add onto that the date, the option for our residents to take a look at either June or November, because I think both dates have merit, and just to give our residents a choice. But there's a little more to the process of this, and I know you folks are talking with NICOM and kind of working through what that would look like in terms of the timing. Again, anything like this has to go back to Albany, to the state legislature, and go through their process to enable us to do that. So it's
I'm not
No?
sure that's, no,
oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't. You're right. What was I thinking?
pure vote.
It's a pure vote. It's a straight up vote once we have the referendum. Yeah, I apologize for that. I was thinking of Albany. Yeah, it's a straight up referendum. And it would be run by the county, am I correct?
It depends on when we can get it into if we can get it into the county cycle for a regular election for the village.
Okay.
If not, it would be a special election.
We would
Special-
run?
Special elections are run by the clerk's office.
Yeah, and you may recall, we had a special election a couple years ago where there was a referendum on whether we would have cannabis in the village, and that was run by the village.
My office ran it.
Yeah, sorry, what didn't go to Albany. So anyway, we're looking into that and what the process would be and the time frame for that. So there's an update on that. Any other comments on that?
So I would like to add, because I brought this to the board originally, and my thinking was, at first, can you see me? Hi there, Jean. At first, my thought was, thank you, my thought was to, hello?
No, you have to
Gotta
hold
hold it
and
and
see the
yellow
light go on.
Okay.
My thought originally was to change the fiscal year so that it would represent, it would help the board that's currently seated to work on the budget and then pass that budget based on the time that they're in office. So what's happening now is that our budgets, we actually started our budget cycle, we're working on our budget now. We have to have a tentative budget by May, and it has to be adopted by June, or the other way around. We have to have, it's adopted by May,
No,
It has to be adopted by May 1st.
May 1st for a June fiscal year start.
Correct.
Okay, so then what happens is we have an election and a new board comes in April and then has to kind of vote on
Budget that
that was a budget that was passed by the board before them. So it just didn't make sense. So I brought to the attention of the clerk that can we change the fiscal year? She had recommended that instead of doing that, it would be easier for us to change the election time. So I did some research and I talked to NICOM, which is the New York Conference on Mayors, and they highly recommended to keep the village vote off of the national election time. And there's many reasons for that. They state specifically, the pitfalls of the November election are obvious and detrimental to a sound system of local, sensitive, representative governance. In an era of sensational politics, national and state issues will dominate, leaving little time for education and consideration of village issues. So I think our village is small enough to really stay away from party politics and stay away from the national election so that residents can really understand the local issues that they are voting
and the people that they're,
voting to represent them. So that is the reason why I decided that June 1st would be the appropriate time. Also, campaigning is going to be easier in the spring as well. So that is the backstory as to why I had mentioned the June 1st date, and it was approved by the 4 trustees, and I'd like to move that forward. Jeff, how do we do that to move that forward so that we can get this in by March 1st and get it on the ballot for this coming election on March 18th? Is that correct?
We're not sure yet.
Okay, so that's what we're trying to do, because it's a big election, March 18th, and I think that voter turnout is going to be quite big. And if we can have the voice of our voters to pass or not pass this referendum, then I think that would be representative.
thanks so much for your comments. I would like to say that many of you know that Governor Hochul signed into law this past year that all cities and towns will cycle on the even years with national and state elections and local elections for them and county elections in November. I did speak with representatives in Albany about this because villages were left out. And evidently, there is legislation now going into the legislature to bring villages in line as well to the November cycle. And regardless of what the earlier advocacy was of NICOM, the legislation's moving forward because the thought was it's better voter turnout. I can tell you that other villages in Monroe County, one of them being Fairport, changed their election date to November, and they have significantly increased voter turnout because it was sort of one-stop shopping if you're already cycling with other elections. So, you know, I'm fine with a referendum. I think to only give our residents one date and not the choice of 2 almost defeats the purpose of a referendum because there's a pre-selected date that you can pick or only keep it on March. So I do not support the referendum the way it is currently written. I would prefer that it would just be amended just to give everybody in the village a choice whether you would prefer November or June with the idea anyway that it probably will end up statewide becoming the election in November anyway. So those are my thoughts. Anybody else?
Lou, Dave?
Oh,
I have
Lou?
more of a question
Yeah.
than a
Let me
statement.
look here. I turned it on. There you go.
Thank
You're
you.
good.
My question is a matter of timing. If we are still discussing, we do not move this ahead tonight, what does the timeline look like?
We're not sure yet because we're getting conflicting information from NICOM, and we've got to clarify that to see what the timing can be.
In case you didn't hear that, our attorney was just saying that we have conflicting information about the timing of how we could put forth this resolution, but understand we could put forth this referendum actually at any time and hold it as a special election, just the way we did when we issued the referendum for cannabis as well. So we're not necessarily beholden to this date to get it in. We can simply have a special election once we find out the proper procedure and the timing of when we can put this out as a referendum publicly.
It would just mean that it would not take effect until,
Well, we have a
Which
window
election
anyway
year?
before, we have 2 years.
well, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
it wouldn't, so we
It
have
wouldn't
to,
affect it.
because what I was reading, what was submitted earlier, it sounded as if we needed to do it, sounded as if we needed to do it immediately in order for it to take effect by 2026.
No, well, I believe the sense of urgency was just to get it on this particular ballot for this election, as opposed to the fact that we could hold this referendum at any point in time and still meet the deadline for a 2-year election cycle.
Correct. The cleanest way, and let's be honest, the cleanest way is to be on this election cycle. Unfortunately, we're not sure. If it can't be, then it's a special election. Otherwise, you're holding it. I don't think your next scheduled election, unless something happens, is 2027.
Yeah.
So, I would like it to be on the current election just because it's clean. If it can't be, it's a special election. It's till we find that out.
So
can
once we
give
get
you
the
a solid
correct
answer.
information, we can make that.
Correct. I'm working with the Board of Elections and NICOM, and hopefully we'll have answers soon.
Yeah, we have conflicting information from two reliable sources. Yeah. Dave, did you have a?
Just a couple questions.
Dave,
First
did
up, try to talk louder.
This will be fine. Jeff, if we pass this, is there language that we can add to it where if it is possible in this election, then it would happen? Could we just pass this, and if it doesn't?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but you can't apply to this election no matter what you do.
Correct.
Okay.
What I'm saying is to be on
To have
this
it on the
election
ballot.
Have it on the
ballot.
ballot.
If this were to pass, but based on your research, it can't be on the ballot,
Yeah.
then it just automatically goes to a special election, correct?
Only if the board wants to go to a special
Correct, so
election.
we got next
Right.
step.
So we could pass this the way it's written, and if it can get on this election, it does. If it doesn't, then we go back to another resolution to have it
Yes.
be a special election.
Correct.
Okay, so that being understood, just my comments. 4 of us on this board represent the village from an independent party. And while we're affiliated individually, perhaps independently, or with major parties, I find that the opportunity for residents to be heard, to be a part of civil discourse and engagement, be a part of government, is increased by having a election that doesn't fall in line with a major town, city, state, federal. Because the voices that are heard, the issues that are heard are specifically local, they're small, they're
Regional to us.
Press it again.
press it again, I talked too long, I guess. But the point that I'm trying to make is this is a special place, and I think we can keep it a special place. Elections have to be special. They have to be focused on who we are regionally, and when we go into dining rooms and living rooms, I don't want to hear about what's happening at a national level. I don't want to hear about what's happening per se at a state level. I want to hear about what's happening in the village. And by keeping elections separate, it does that. By moving the date to the summer versus the spring, one of the things that we do is we take it off the budget cycle. And I think that's very helpful. So unless there's further comment, I'll make a motion.
I have another comment. I think either way, if it's in November, it still takes it out of the hands of the budget cycle, because in November, then you would have a newly elected board, and the budget cycle starts after the first of the year, so we would have a fresh board in place. All I would like is an amendment to this referendum to enable residents to make a choice between whether you want this in November or in June, and let the residents decide. That's all. The fact that there's only one date being offered, I don't think serves the needs of this community. I think we need to enable the residents to make the choice between two solid dates. Yeah.
It's like passing the salt.
I know.
Thank you. I just, I wasn't familiar with the legislation that you were referring to earlier, Mayor, about the state changing the laws around the county and town elections. In just looking for it, town and city, if it's the same one that I'm looking at now, it's the law that was struck down by the state Supreme Court for being against the state constitution.
It ended up being upheld on appeal.
It was opposed, so I don't have the entire history there, but it was a controversial piece of legislation. It was opposed by the New York State Association of Counties. I imagine similar attempts at the village level would be opposed by NICOM. I would personally certainly oppose changing the elections to November, and I support what the other trustees have said about keeping it an independent date.
I'd like to.
Okay, we have one more.
With all due respect, Mayor, I understand that you would like to give residents a choice, but historically speaking, our residents have voiced us to serve and research what is in the best interest of our village. And obviously, we can't take every decision to residents for a vote.
That's why you have a referendum.
Well, this one is obviously it seems like it's a unanimous, so let's bring it to vote, but we feel that in the best interest of our residents, that keeping village elections special, let me reiterate, focuses attention on local issues, reduces partisan influence, and minimizes voter fatigue. Okay, so I truly think that we should move forward on this, and I would like to do so. I think we have a motion on the table. I would like to second.
I'll formally make the motion.
There was no motion, was there?
No, I'll make one.
Hang on.
I'll make it formal.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as included in our packet.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Real quick. I have a question.
I'll take
the
that,
attorneys. If they pass this, and it can't be on March,
The resolution.
Yeah.
so it's.
So it depends on the
I just
outcome.
want to make sure it has a fail-safe.
Hang on. Did everybody hear that? If the resolution passes, and I think it will because we've heard everybody's opinion here, we cannot get it on the ballot in March because we don't know the outcome of the research yet, we will have to have another resolution. Okay, just so everybody understands what's happening. Okay. Okay, roll call.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgib?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lampier?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Nay.
Motion passes.
Okay. Well, it's not quite 6. Why don't we switch over to member items? Anybody have member items tonight? I can take up a half hour.
If we do have excess time, one suggestion could be that we do part of our executive session.
Yeah, I was thinking we could adjourn and
Oh,
just do that.
yeah.
Yeah,
potentially.
it's a good idea.
Yeah. But first, if anybody has any member items to bring forward.
I've
No.
decided not to today.
Oh,
Dave.
you're holding out.
I'm holding out.
Dave always has member items, that's why we're joking with him. Okay, then what we're going to do then is adjourn at this point, and we are going to go into an executive session. We do have another matter to discuss, and we'll be back in time for the public hearings. Okay, so I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Oh, we gotta
Are
go
we
with
making a
purpose.
motion to adjourn? We can go
What?
into an executive.
Oh, it's
session.
executive.
Executive.
Purpose.
Yeah, We're going into executive session for the purpose of discussing an HR matter.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Trustee Lampier?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgib? Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, everybody do the seventh inning stretch.
Okay, we need to exit the executive session first.
Make a motion to exit the executive session.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Could you tell me what that word is?
We have to make a motion on something we took action on.
Yeah.
This middle of the.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the submittal of the appointment of the inspector for the 75 Monroe development with PCP per the settlement agreement.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, trustee Lightgev?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Oh, we still have a few minutes, don't we? How did that happen? We're so efficient. Gee. Another adjournment.
Or
Wow, how far are we?
Take a small pause.
How far are we?
as my pen went flying,
5 minutes.
Oh, geez.
Is there- if there's new people in the audience, if they have any questions on the refuse
Yeah.
district, I'll be
Yeah.
happy to do that.
We officially have to wait under New York State law for exactly 6 o'clock to start our public hearings. We have conducted most of the business, all the business actually, otherwise on the agenda. But if there's we have a couple minutes, if anybody has questions about the refuse district, we did cover it earlier if you want us, or any other questions or comments not pertaining to the agenda. Any residents? Anybody online?
Steve. Oh, and Dave.
Oh, our building inspector.
I'm curious, on the refuse district and SAREC, have they been informed of the village ordinance for the days of the week for pickup? Has that been arranged with the carrier?
It will be arranged as to what date. We'll have that information at the hearing. Depending on if they can get the whole village at the
Hi.
time.
Name and address, come on up.
Oh, yeah,
Come on up, we'll make it official.
okay. Dave McGee, 28 Washington Ave. I heard something about 75 Monroe, and I was just wondering if you could expand on that, because that's always a hot topic.
75 Monroe has received their permit. We have reached an agreement whereby we will have an independently contracted inspector on site with oversight from our inspector for the village, because it's a larger project and obviously it's going to take quite a bit of time. So what this motion was to approve the appointment of that inspector and understand that we will not be footing the bill. This is an independent contractor that will be paid by the applicant. Thanks for your question, George.
I might just add to that.
Yeah, Dave.
So just a quick addition, 75 Monroe is a 7-building, 158-unit apartment complex right along the canal that's been approved and permitted. The builder is entering into the first stage of that, and there's 3 buildings as part of that stage. They'll be the buildings closest to Monroe, not farthest from, so that's where we are right now.
Hi, Gabe.
Hey, Gabe.
A quick question, Gabriel Diaz, 81 South Street. So with the refuse district, you give a price of $350 with additional costs for additional services. So can you, is recycling every week, every other week? And are the bin sizes the small cardboard box size or the roller bin size that matches the?
So glad you asked that. It's going out, all that information is going out to a letter to every single residence, but Dorothea, do you want to speak to that?
It's not cardboard box size. It's recycling is every week.
Great.
So it'll be the tote. If you want a larger tote, that would be something you can contact SAREC and they would bill you directly for that.
Did everybody
But
hear?
your base garbage fees will be paid through your tax bill.
Okay, that's really great news, thank you.
Okay.
Just in case,
Just in case everybody didn't hear, it's the full-size totes for recycling and trash weekly.
Correct. For 2 years, that price is good for 2 years.
Yeah, it's a stable price to every household for 2 years. And you know, if you want anything in addition, for example, if you want them to come and pick up your totes, you can contact them directly and still make that arrangement. What this is providing, as you say, the basic services, or if you want any special pickups, you know, if you're cleaning out your basement and there's additional items to be picked up, you can make your own arrangements. That's still a possibility there.
I would piggyback on there, though, there is a set price for those separate arrangements.
Separate fee.
Yep, there's a separate fee, but there's agreed upon price for the villagers for that. So let's say you're having tires picked up, it's like $5.
Bob has a question. Do you want me to take the mic over
Yeah.
to him?
Yeah,
I can do it, Lily. I got it.
Here,
Oh, thanks.
yep, hang on, we're bringing the mic out here.
Just one real quick question.
Name and address, please.
Robert Farnham, 22 Washington Road. You say it's going to start this June 1st?
Right.
Okay.
Yep, new fiscal year for the village, thank you.
Alexander.
Oh, keep going.
Alexander, go ahead.
Yep,
Oh,
there
you're
you
working the
go.
crowd. There you go.
Oprah.
All right, David Wilkes, 19 East Jefferson Road. So with CIREC, effectively, when you pay for yours currently, it's done for the entire year, right, in December. So as a existing customer, what happens to that? Is it pro rata in terms of some sort of?
I will have more information, and they should be here for the public hearing to answer those questions, but I would reach out to them and ask that, because that's something we can't control. But for us, your service will go from June 1st to May 31st every year. So between now and June, you're going to want to be paying for your service, but you're going to want to cease as of June 1st. So I think they would take that into consideration and make appropriate adjustments.
Okay, because I was going to say, I prepaid the entire year. So.
That was good of you.
And for those of you who were not here, earlier, the public hearing for the assessment for the refuse district is going to be on February 11th at 6 o'clock. Okay, and we'll be sending out a notice anyway, but just to give you a heads up. Yeah.
Hi, Marty Martina, 30 Locust. I believe CIREC has the miniature recycling bins. They have the smallest ones. They aren't the same size. Has that been the discussion about? I mean, I put one bag in my garbage and my recycling cart was overflowing. So I think you're going to run into problems. CIREC's totes are tiny for recycling.
I don't have the letter in front of me, but it
was something I want to consider.
Again, if you want to upsize, you can pay for the upsize. I think it's like
recycling or garbage?
I think for both. I think it runs like $5 for an upsize. So again, that's something you would contract with CIREC. Okay?
Okay. All right. Oh, it's 6:02. Okay.
See, I know how to fill an empty space.
I know. No, this was good. I'm glad, you know, we could answer some questions. Okay, so first up, do you want to read about the public notification, the hearing? Or do you want me to?
In what way?
First up, we have a public hearing on how the public is notified of actions before other boards. Dorothea, do you want to speak to that and why this is coming up to public hearing?
Yep.
We're going to hand this down. I know.
I thought I was loud enough.
You are.
I am loud enough? Thank you. The purpose of this is to amend our section in notification for residents in the purpose of removing the mailer. The property would be posted, it would go into the newspaper as normal. This is consistent with other communities, and the reason this was brought to the board, the cost of doing a mailing right now for the notification purposes is running us several $100s, and we're not recouping that in application fees, and it's not that I want to get ahead with this, but I don't want to be falling behind in budget numbers with that. And sometimes those notifications aren't even noticed. So I feel it's better, at least with the posting and working with the board and the planning and all the other boards in setting up our applications, pushing that responsibility to the applicant to go to their neighbors and sign off that they've been notified.
And can you speak to how other municipalities, what they're doing as a policy with the applicant and notification? Some of the other municipalities.
I do know at Webster at that time when I was there, it was policy to have the neighbor go to the neighboring properties.
The applicant.
The applicant, let me get it right. The applicant go to the neighboring properties within a certain amount of footage and speak to them and have them sign off on a letter, so that they had all their sign-offs, that they're aware of the application going in front of that board.
And that's in addition to posting and notification as well?
Yeah, that would be in addition to the property being posted and the normal notification in the newspaper.
Okay.
I think it would be more effective.
Okay, yeah, I think it streamlines the process significantly. Yep.
There you go.
For this.
Yeah, so before the board goes in, we need to do a seeker statement for this.
Oh, yeah, we need seeker. Did we get the form? Or seeker.
They have to do this before they open the public.
Did you get the forms?
After the public hearing.
After the public hearing.
we did the seeker.
After the public hearing, okay. Is there any comments from the board before we open the hearing? Yeah.
I am wondering if all board members have had the opportunity to read an email that was sent to the board from the chairperson of the Planning and Zoning Board, who had some insights from that board. Okay, thank you. I just wanted clarification.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Appreciate that. Okay, I make a motion, we open the public hearing.
A second.
We have a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgib?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, is there anybody wishing, from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Yes, please come up and state your name and address. Hi, Justin.
Yes, Justin Leedstra, 19 Belton Avenue.
In the microphone, just so.
Justin Leedstra, 19 Belton Avenue. It sounds like someone who have had a chance to review some of my comments. First of all, my reading of this does not match what I think was explained. My reading of this is the only notice requirements are going to be what is dictated by New York State village law. By the first statement in there, changing that notice shall be mailed notice, media notice, etc., as required by New York State village law. New York State village law does not require posting signs in a yard. In fact, my reading of this law is it's going to eliminate all notice entirely, all functional notice entirely for residents. Now, if the village wants to go above and beyond, that's okay, but there's no way for, say, the planning board to dictate, we want more notice, we want people to show up. When we have a public hearing, we rely on the public to come up. If there is a site plan for review, the entire purpose of the review is to look at how it impacts adjacent properties. If adjacent properties are not aware of this because there's no sign posted and no mailing, then that is just not going to work. Everybody in this village is interested in knowing if their neighbor is going to build a 6,000 square foot addition. We need to know that. They're going to have an opinion on it. Now, there's a serious problem with this law in that it's not based on the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan was a directive to you, and you need to follow it. And the comprehensive plan states that we want to keep the public aware. I don't have the quotes here, I could dig it up. We want to keep the public involved, aware, and so on. When adopting a law, your directive is the comprehensive plan. If the clerk has concerns about fees, that's not your directive. When the background for this, when this was adopted as part of the comprehensive plan for with the Village of Pittsburgh back in 2019. So this was adopted along with it. At the time, the notice that was in place was an email system that people could sign up for that no longer works. People no longer get emails, to my knowledge. At least I don't. These notices go out to property owners within 300 feet of the applicant's property. I don't see how that typically is going to invoke a $200 postage fee. You can request fees for postage. I believe that's part of our law. So if you want to get reimbursed for that, but look, the cost of postage is minuscule compared to the cost of attorneys. This isn't driving anyone in the village in hardship. So I think for our residents, they want to be informed. Keep them informed. Please reject this law. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to comment? And I will actually ask afterwards to have staff and the attorney respond. Anyone online? Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Aye.
Trustee Lightkit.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, the matter comes back before the board, and I would ask that staff and the attorney respond to some of the comments made, maybe for some clarification.
What would you like me to do?
Well, this law eliminates any notice, the comment was made that this law eliminates any notice entirely to the public and is in violation of the comprehensive plan, which I certainly did not see. I interpreted this law quite differently.
I disagree. I mean, I would disagree with that comment.
Can
because
here, I'm gonna, yeah, just.
it provides for notice. This law provides for notice. It's required by New York law. I'm not sure what more. I mean, if the board wants to do more, wants to do the mailing, then of course the board can do that.
I would just like to ask our attorney
Louder.
to clarify the matter of New York State village law. My understanding was that the physical sign would still be posted. And what the chairperson was indicating of the Planning and Zoning Board is that the posted physical sign would no longer be present either. So I would really like to clarify that matter. I would feel okay if there's a physical sign there and use alternate methods rather than the snail mail, but I would not feel okay if there's no physical sign posted.
My understanding was the sign is always posted. Steve, you always post a sign. And I think that actually a lot of people see that. We've gotten good feedback on that because it's so highly visible.
Yeah, so my question is that sign required by New York State law, which we're referring to in this?
And it's required by us.
Well, it wouldn't be if we pass this, because now we're going with New York State.
This is very brief, but what I'm seeing is that New York State requires date, time, place of the hearing, or notice in a newspaper of general circulation within the village, which nobody gets. A description of the subject matter and information on how interested parties can participate. It doesn't speak, those public hearings, it doesn't speak anything to a sign in a yard.
Which we do.
Which we may do, but this doesn't provide. So one of the things.
We do that as a policy.
Yeah, so one of the things maybe to look at this law and say within A and B, instead of having to be as required by village law, what if we just determine what it is? So in B of this, as it's being presented, it says.
I'm sorry, I got to interrupt you. It's an entirely different, it's a different section.
Here. To Jeff, please.
I don't need it. It's an entirely different section that requires the posting. It is still required under our law. 210, 31.5 requires posted notices.
Which we do.
Which we do.
Which we've always done.
So that was.
Posted notices meaning signs out in the property? Is that what posted notices mean?
Yes, it does.
That doesn't mean just posting it in the newspaper?
Correct. It does not mean
it's in addition to.
Yep.
So then the real change then here would be primarily just the snail mail?
Correct.
That's all we're asking.
Okay.
That's all it is. The only change is the notification by mail, and we potentially could implement a policy where the applicant, as is done in other municipalities, in addition to the posting that we already do and will continue to do, would be required to notify the abutting properties. That's the only change.
So let me make this clear. So that means that we are going to ask our residents to do the service that our village clerk usually does.
No.
Well, yeah, because the village clerk usually sends out a snail mail to let residents around them know that there's a project going to be done. But now we're saying, applicant, it's your responsibility to go do the work and get to all of those people around you and then let them know the project's being done.
Hang on. I think there's a little bit of a misconception here.
Right? Let me just.
Yeah.
You want to try?
Yeah. The only thing that we are changing in this local law is there's no more mailing. Period. The village will post the property when there is something pending before a board.
so that anyone walking by will notice it. It will continue to be posted at Village Hall. It will continue to be published in our paper, and it will still be communicated online on our website.
On our website, yeah.
And I don't know if that's enough notice, but it sure
The-
seems like a lot to me.
The suggestion I had, if the board is still concerned about notification to to property owners, to put that onus on the resident and
On the
adopt a policy-
applicant,
on the applicant, I'm sorry, on the applicant to talk to their neighbors about that. That is not something in this law. That is something I'm suggesting.
As policy.
As a policy that can go into the application for a project coming in front of planning or zoning or the historic preservation board. This way, they know that the neighbors were spoken to. It is not a requirement part of this local law.
Nor is it now part of our code.
It is not. Is it good practice? I would think it would be a good practice, but that is something the board would have to suck up. That goes beyond me. That is just a suggestion I had. But in the meantime, what we're looking for is just removing of the snail mail. That's it, just the mail notice.
Yeah, yes, Lily. Mike?
Thank you. Two things come to mind. Number one, do we have a definitive number on how much it costs the village annually to do
For
the
snail mail.
snail mail notifications?
The problem with the snail mail notifications is that it has gone up. The
Louder.
cost of postage, the cost of
Okay,
postage
not
has
just the
gone up,
postage,
the
it's
cost of the
administrative.
requirement, the number of notifications sent out. We've seen an increase in our budget lines for that, and I brought it to the board. I've had to put more money into it, and let me state it this way. My concern is it be effective notice. If I felt the mailed notices were effective, I wouldn't say a word, but I don't think they're effective. I think your best effectiveness is the notice on the property. It's right there. I don't even think it's effective to put it in the newspaper because no one reads the newspapers, but that's still a state law.
requirement.
So what I'm saying is use your most effective tool, use your money to the best
It might be
ability.
a multifaceted tool.
Yes.
From my perspective, having also sat on the planning and zoning board and been aware of what that chairperson is conveying to this board, it is, what he is stating is correct and it is critical, and I am taking what he is saying under advisement. Number two is that I never want to miss an opportunity to inform our residents. Communication is so critical. I never want to take.
Bring it up.
Press
Up, just closer.
I never want to miss an opportunity to let a neighbor know that something is occurring. Yes, a sign might be posted, but it doesn't elaborate as to what that application involves. So I don't think that it's that much of an onus on the village to convey communication, and maybe keep track of it in the next 6 months or so and see how much it actually does cost us, and then we'll revisit it. And that's my opinion. Thank you.
Justin here?
Oh, Justin, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand raised. I'm sorry, Justin.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't raise my hand, but I was reviewing some of the law here, and I guess this is a question to our attorney. So we're modifying 210-31-2, which is a general description of the public notice requirements, and we're saying that it's as required by New York State Village Law, but then we supplement that with the sections remaining. We're removing mail notices section, but we're retaining media notices and posted notices. Wouldn't it make sense to clarify things, and I think it would be good for some of the public comments here too, 210-31-2 to say notices as required by New York State Village Law and relevant sections of this code?
Well, I'm not sure that it would, but because, if you're looking at this, then you're looking at the rest of the code. But the board could certainly do that. That's up to the board.
Yeah, I just think, to me, it's not as clear as it could be here, because, I'm sorry, it just doesn't, this section in isolation that was posted for the public, to me, when read aside from the rest of that section of code that it's supplementing, doesn't, it's not clear that there are additional requirements that village law has.
I have a question for sign posting. So how long do the signs have to be out legally on the property to allow people to know that something is happening? So 10 days, okay. So this is my concern. I've had a lot of concerns. Residents are not happy with the fact that we are removing a way for them to be informed about what's happening in their village. And I think that that's been an ongoing issue. How often, maybe I'm going to put it out there, how often do you guys go on our website and just take a look and see what's going on? I mean, I don't very often do it, and I'm on the board. How often do you go up to Village Hall and take a look at the little sign up there and see what's going on? All right, those are your two options. So if there's something significant happening right next door to you, I think that you deserve to be notified by mail. I don't think that it's going to break us, and I think that there's many people that don't use our website and that don't use email, and it sounds like even our email blasts are not getting to our residents. So to be sure and put the blame on the post office, I think that our residents deserve to get a notice about something significant that is going to be happening next door to them. My thought.
Is there a sign that's posted next door, so you would see the sign in your neighbor's yard? You know, just to make sure, okay, I'm getting some.
Yeah, unless you're on vacation, unless you're a snowbird, right? Some people that are gone for 3 months and the sign goes up for 10 days and no one sees it.
So exception, not the rule. Yeah, Dave?
I mentioned my concern about removing mail-in at our last meeting. I guess just in looking at the map, most of us have backyards that abut somebody, but there are streets actually opposite us, but we may not actually ever go on that street. So while we may post it, we may never see it. And our backyards looking at somebody else's backyards, that's what we see all the time. So my comment here is to maintain the mail, increase our fees if necessary, adjust elsewhere, but there's no reason to remove communication to residents who might not otherwise be on those roads. Our backyards are important to all of us, so I'll vote no on this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, you know, we do need to recover costs, and I think you raised an important point on that. It's back to the board right now, so any other comments from the board? Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if some of this conversation came up because we had a law where the entire village had to be notified, and that it's entirely unrelated. Okay.
No, it comes from watching hours of staff time, folding and stuffing envelopes or mailings, and then having to redo it because there was a change, and it had to go out 2 to 3 times, and losing days and the cost of postage. Yeah. And I hate to say it, I understand the need to notify the residents. Understand clear as a bell, but we do. We post in the paper, we post the property, we send out the agenda, and the packet is there for the public to see. So, you know, if you're not getting the email blast, please contact me. It's something in your spam filter. Other people do get them. Mm-hmm. I set it up so I get them at home, so I know they go out.
How many of you get the email blast?
I've applied many times and don't get it.
You have to click, this is important, just so everybody understands, you must click to accept. We send you the email saying, did you really sign up? Please confirm it. If you don't confirm it, you'll never get an email from us again.
Are you talking about emails from you or
yeah.
The village?
The village.
The village.
The boards, we don't get them.
I don't get any of the boards.
That's right.
I get
yours. No.
Yeah, I know you get mine.
I don't get.
We don't get the ones we signed up to get.
Yeah, correct. I signed notices of meeting.
I would say if you're not receiving it, because like I said, they go out. I do not remove people. I don't change. If you sign up to receive the email from the village on the website, you should get a notification saying, please agree that you did that. Once you do that, you should be receiving them. If you're not receiving them, contact the office. We'll help you, but most likely it's in your spam filter. That is something we can't control. So I would talk to your provider. And we are updating the website. There is a new update coming. So maybe some of this will be eliminated, but it is going out. I know they go out. I see them because I get them because I set myself up, because I want to make sure, that the residents are receiving notification. So
If I
it
may.
has to be something internal.
So if I may.
Yeah, I just wanted to just make a quick comment before I hand it over to you, Dave. Because you maybe didn't hear the first part of a while back, what our clerk treasurer said. We have a small staff in the office, and sometimes with these mailings, they're done by hand. And so they're spending hours stuffing envelopes. And we're looking at it also, the productivity side of this in terms of the best use of staff's time, relative to making sure that people are notified with other means that are not being removed at all. So that was part of the genesis of why this is before the public tonight. Yeah, Dave.
Again, I think it's a reasonable endeavor to try to save time. I've stuffed a ton of envelopes and it's pain. But again, I'm just concerned about when we get emails, when we get the request to go onto the website to see what's happening. The reality is we'll go on there and 99.5% of the time it doesn't apply to our property in our immediate vicinity that we live within. The mail is the only thing that happens once, right? When it's specific to our area and our region. So I just think it's really important to maintain that. Unless we can come up with some other way where that notice is specific to that person and it looks special, because otherwise we just disregard a lot of it, so.
I think Art had something.
Well, we did close the public hearing. It is back to the board at this point, unless the board would wish to entertain specific questions again from the public. But I think you're ready to vote at this point.
I do want to point one thing out.
Yeah.
This is broken down into two sections, this local law. The first one deals with making uniform the 5-day notice. The second part, removing section 210-31.3 is the mailing. So the board could accept from this local law the provisions regarding the removal of 210-31.3 if that's what the board is thinking it wants to do, but still pass the remainder of the local law.
Did the board understand that in terms of motions here?
So I think, Jeff, if I may, in looking at this, what you're saying is accept everything other than the last sentence, which was the removal of 210-31.3.
Correct.
As a result of that, we change our code from what currently says everything that is not in red. I don't know if you have it in red, but A says all public notices shall be made at least 5 days prior to the date of the scheduled public hearing. Now it would say, unless otherwise required.
Unless otherwise required by New York State Village law, all public notices shall be made at least 5 days prior to the date of the scheduled public hearing.
Correct. The second part, B, I do have one question on legal language. So it says, right now it says public notices shall include mailed notices, media notices, and posted notices in accordance with New York State Village law.
As required by.
Yeah, in the update it says as required by. So my question is what is the difference between in accordance with and as required by?
We are this only requires the village to do what is required by New York State Village law. There was confusion about the in accordance language. So this clearly means that we have to do everything that is required by village law. In addition, as Trustee Lightgill points out, there are additional notice provisions in the remainder of the public hearing section, Article 31 of our code.
Okay, so then when you go on and you look at the mailed notice section, 31.3, media notices, all of that would still apply even if it says as required by.
Correct. Mm-hmm. That is a standalone provision.
That is a standalone provision. Okay. So then if we make a motion to adopt it without the last sentence, it basically keeps everything as is but clarifies it.
Yes, that is correct.
I'll make a motion to adopt this as stated.
Without the last sentence.
Without the last sentence.
Is there a second to this motion?
Anyone want to second that?
I'll second the motion.
We have a second?
Okay, so can we just bring it back to the board? So Jeff, can you specifically state what we've just Seconded. What does this change as compared to what we've had? What difference does
Clarifies
this?
that it's only, I'm sorry.
It's just a clarification. It
that it's a
doesn't do any
5-day
changing.
That it's a 5-day notice, yes.
It's a 5-day notice. It's just a clarification that it's a 5-day notice. That's all this does.
And we got to do seeker before we adopt it, so.
Yeah, we have to do seeker next.
Oh, we handed it out.
Yeah, he did, I had it right here.
So I took the liberty of pre-filling a short form seeker for this. It's in front of the board. You glance at it, it looks okay, then you could adopt that seeker and it would result in a negative declaration that there is no substantial impact on the environment.
Mayor, before we proceed, there is a member of the public. I don't know.
Yeah, it's come back to the board. The public hearing is closed. Everybody's had a chance to comment already. We're moving forward with
I
seeker.
think we have someone in the back, Mayor, asking to speak.
Yeah.
We-
Can we?
Okay,
authorize-
well, then we bring it back to the board. Do
Yeah.
we wish to hear again from the public? With
Yes.
the public hearing closed?
Yes.
I would like to
Do
hear
you
from the
wish to-
public, yes.
Okay. Do you want?
I do.
Okay. Okay, then great. Let's hear from the public. Please come up with your name and address, Art. Hi, Art.
Amy, thank you. A couple of quick questions.
Could you state your name and address, please, for the
70
record?
State Street. Question in regards to the range of, I can just ask them all and get answers. The range of the public notices that the concern is with the mailing, how far, I heard that it's not, village-wide, but so how far, basically a radius from the original house. I agree with Trustee Marshall that there's a concern if your backyard is being posted, the name of the backyard, you're not ever going to know about it. Signatures is a question about if you're required to get signatures from your neighbors, what if your neighbors are not home? Where's the onus put on the applicant when they can't get it? At what point then are they penalized if they cannot get signatures from the adjacent owners, whether they're not there that day, not week, or whatever? Vacations, I agree on that. People on vacations, they may never get it, even if they check their mail can be delivered late. And then also as far as the format, I understand there's two formats for notifications, one from the village, the mayor's office, and then another format for other notifications. And I can tell you for more than 1 year, 2 years, I still do not get them on a regular basis. I get the bulletins from the mayor's office and not the others. My junk mail is not a problem. I have no problem with any other communications through my email. So those are just for the record. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Art.
much.
Thanks so much. We really need to look into that. There's something going on. Okay.
I think Justin has.
Okay, we have a second comment from Mr. Bleedstra.
And thank you for allowing me to make a second comment. Again, Justin Bleedstra, 19 Belton Avenue. I'm in agreement with what Mr. Lincoln said about the first phrase in there where it says, as required by New York State Village law. Let's just change it to be crystal clear that notices shall be mailed notices, posted notices, period, in addition to any notices required by New York State Village law, just to make it clear that that we're not limited to what's required by village law, that we're expanding what's beyond required by village law. So just some simple tweaks to language will accomplish that. Another thing I want to bring to your attention that's been of debate is the notice requirements, I believe in our code, are to property owners. This makes a big difference for commercial properties and rental properties. And this is something you can consider. Right now, commercial tenants do not get any notice. It goes to the owner of the building. So if someone is applying to you for whatever, say hair salon, the property next door does not get a mailing. It goes to the owner of the building next door, I believe, so that the owner is aware of it. This is the only way. The owner doesn't normally drive by these buildings, so the mailings is the only way for the owner to do it. But the question is, should it be to the owner, should it be to the tenant, or should it be to both? These are also matters of concern. I also agree with Mr. Marshall's comment is that the only way I would find out about something on the property behind me is if I'm mailed a notice. So that is very much appreciated. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for commenting. Okay. We have a motion, we have a, did you want to, I'm sorry.
We're just waiting on a quick response. We told someone the public hearing closed,
Oh,
so
well, we
went-
should,
and
you
if
know,
that-
now we're
and I
taking
wanna
comments
be-
again
I
anyway.
want to be fair.
Yeah, we need to be fair.
They haven't responded, so they've had a few minutes, so.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah. We have a motion and a second.
Comment.
Gotta finish seeker.
Oh, we have seeker? Yeah, we have seeker, sorry.
Before seeker, just discussion.
Yeah,
Jeff,
before se-
the comment on the language where it says as required by,
Make sure,
The comment on the language as required by, is there a way to say that?
What are you trying to accomplish?
To where the public notice, mail, media, and posted is more clearly understood to be embedded in the village law separately and distinctly than just what is embedded in village law? New York State village law. Meaning our code takes priority, not the requirements of New York State village law.
And what we're trying to do is avoid the confusion of which code prevails. And that's why we went as required by New York State village law.
Which one prevails then in that case?
As required by New York State village law.
Okay, so then could it say as required by Pittsford, the code of Pittsford Village, or?
But it's already, any other notices required by Pittsford Village Code is already a part of the code and must be complied with. This is clarifying.
Okay. I see what you're saying. So what you're saying is this B is only specific to whatever New York State village law may require for those types of notices, but for
Yes.
everything else we do, it's going to notice whether or not you need 31.4 media notices or 31.5 posted notices. So every action is going to speak to a specific different code, not this, where what this is simply saying is a catch-all. If New York State requires something we don't, and it applies specific to mail, media, and posted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
okay. We have seeker. Has everybody had a chance to just take a look at the form? Is there a motion?
make a motion to declare this a type 2 by seeker. Nope,
No.
sorry.
Negative declaration.
Negative deck, negative deck by seeker.
We have a motion to declare a seeker as a negative declaration. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgift.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
I have a motion on the floor.
I'm sorry, Jeff, I didn't hear
Now
you.
you have a motion
Yeah.
on the floor that has been moved and seconded.
Yep, we have a motion that has been moved and seconded for this legislation.
Ready for the vote? Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgift.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Moving on. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for all your comments. Next up is village tree legislation.
Hold on.
Oh, hang on.
Before we get started, there is tree.
Tree.
Seeker,
Seeking for the tree.
seeker for the trees. And what seeker is a state environmental quality review to make sure it's in compliance with state environmental guidelines, any piece of legislation. That's why we specifically conduct this process.
Do you want me to open the public hearing?
Ooh, sure.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the new tree legislation.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Sorry.
Trustee Lightgift.
Aye.
Thank you.
Trustee Lampier.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. Do we have, are we passing out the secret?
We're working on it.
Okay, working on it.
Public hearing, so, go ahead. I mean,
Okay,
public hearing's open.
okay, you're working on that, okay. The public hearing is now open on this piece of legislation. And maybe just to give a little bit of background, this has come before the board and the public on numerous occasions. This legislation, what it doesn't do It doesn't say you can't cut down trees. What it says is we want to protect our native trees that are part of the overall canopy in the village. But if you have an invasive tree, there's a tree that's compromised, there's a public safety issue, you can cut it down. Okay, so it's a specific type of legislation. It's been publicly noticed many times. This draft has been on the website. So the public hearing is open if anybody wishes to speak on this matter.
We actually took a sign up for this one.
Oh, we have a sign up. Okay,
We have a
we have a
sign
sign
up.
up, so I guess we're going to be calling out some names.
Okay, Robert Farnham.
Prefer to have the mic. I can take the mic
Yeah, we
over
can
to,
take the mic to you. Here, hang on.
But we got one at. Okay.
Yep.
Robert Farnham, 22 Washington Road. Just a quick little history on this. Back in the late 1980s, as part of the village board, we started a tree program of planting street trees. And everybody was complaining about the lack of canopy when all the old elm trees were gone. So we started working on replacing them. Up to that point, the only thing they used the budget for was to take care of damaged trees or something that had to come down. Well, the problem with that is you're getting a legislation where you want to take care of the homeowners and all that. That part of it is a gross invasion of privacy far beyond the boards you should be doing. And the other aspect of it is where do you get the expertise to take care of, because certainly you're not taking care of the street trees that you have right now. We got some right on Washington Road that are in terrible condition, and they have been since they've been planted. So if you're not maintaining what you're doing now, show us that you can take care of that first before you drive past a law that goes against everything that you should be doing anyway. Granted, if we have a tree in our property that should be coming down, well, number one, your insurance company is going to tell you to take it down. And number two, your neighbor's going to come in and tell you to take it down if it's a problem. We don't need the village coming in, and if you read their letter, you're going to tell us that we can't raise the canopy. We can't do, I mean, we can't even cut a branch off without come and get a permit. Well, that's what it means. That's what I interpret. I'm sorry, but I am totally opposed to it.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to comment from the public? Yes.
Hold on.
If you.
We have a list.
We have the list.
Oh, we have the list. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting. We actually have people signed up.
Okay, Dave McKeel.
Oh, he raised his hand anyway.
Dave McGill, 28 Washington Ave. With respect, Mayor, the law is not nearly as benign as the way you presented it. It leaves it all on you guys to decide whether or not a homeowner can remove a tree. Portland, Oregon, January 13th of last year, during a winter storm, a 150-foot Douglas fir crushed Sarah and Joel Bond's home, barely missing their 6-year-old daughter. They had been asking the city of Portland for permission to chop down the tree since 2021, but the city denied them a removal permit because, quote, removal will significantly affect neighborhood character and the tree appears healthy and not dangerous. Now the Bonds are without a home. The city's requiring them to ask for a retroactive removal permit for the tree that fell. And guess who they're now suing? Are you prepared to take on that kind of liability? Are you so certain that you and the planning board will make the right decision on every tree in this village every time? Because if you're wrong just once, and the Portland story happens here, that's on you. And what if this time the 6-year-old doesn't get out of the way? Are you ready for that? Your proposal states, the Board of Trustees finds that trees provide a natural habitat for wildlife, absorb air pollution, provide us with oxygen. Yes, wonderful things, trees are awesome. But you know what? They also get struck by lightning, catch fire, blow over, drop heavy limbs, prevent roofs from drying, and more, all of which can result in property damage and sometimes even injury or death. You then state the supposed problem in need of your intervention. Quote, the destructive and indiscriminate removal of trees causes increased village costs and adversely affects the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the village. Pretty bold statement. Where is your data backing up that we have a problem with, quote, destructive and indiscriminate tree removal? Where is your data on the, quote, increased village costs? Where are the tree counts from 10 years ago to today showing a decline, or the Google Map Canopy images? Have you done any homework to propose this, or is this an unfounded issue based on opinion? There's no tree emergency in this village. It's already a self-governing process that seems to have worked just fine for the past couple hundred years without your oversight. The cost of tree removal alone makes people pretty responsible stewards of their trees. And who knows the trees on their property better? The homeowner who sees them every day through the different seasons of the year, noting little changes along the way, like the way it leans, the amount of branches and needles it drops, and other signs of problems? Or you, or the planning board, who's never been to the property? Or even the arborist, who sees it one time, the one that you hire and use taxpayer money to hire? But the arborist will know if it's sick, right? You don't think healthy trees blow over or get struck by lightning or drop heavy limbs? Portland thought so too. You have plenty of village issues on your plate already. Don't go looking for made-up ones. And by the way, the costs, the fines that you're proposing are egregious. You haven't even considered the impact this could have on residents' homeowners insurance. Did you check? Because I did. Do you know they're looking for ways to increase premiums? They're using drones to run inspections on homes. They can determine a tree's a danger and order you to remove it, or they don't insure you. What if the planning board says the tree's fine? Are you ready to put the village in between residents and their insurance companies? And finally, something of this magnitude, talking about charging residents $2,000 and making them replace a tree, that shouldn't be up to you to decide. You feel it's such a good idea? Put it to a public vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to comment from the public?
Marty Martina.
Oh, I keep doing that. I'm so used to it. Keep an eye on me. I need adult supervision tonight. Okay. Hi, Marty.
Hi, Marty Martina, Locust Street. I have to check and make sure my computer wasn't hacked because that was my speech entirely. Just what he said. I'll go over some of the things he said. In the verbiage it states the destruction, indiscriminate removal of trees and vegetation costs, property damage, etc. Exactly what he said. And to that point, I also believe that that statement is heavily subjective. Enforcement of this law falls to the village inspector. Is tree knowledge, tree horticulture a requirement for this? And I believe that trustees also have a determining factor in this. Is it incumbent upon them to have knowledge? I'm guessing expertise is required in this field. Should it be? Let's see, in the event that an expert needs to be brought in, again, who's paying for this? Am I responsible for it? And do I have, as a resident, the right to contest an evaluation on my trees on my property? I believe it says in the end that the planning board has final say on the total approval. Once again, it states that the planning board has the final approval. It doesn't make any sense. The enforcement will be the village inspector will be responsible and required to alert the planning board of unauthorized tree removal. That's verbatim, that was in there. This reminds me of the days when we went back and canvassed every house in the village for glass blocks in the basement windows and had a list, and there was going to be enforcement for that. And it's just, this is kind of crazy. The penalties are egregious. He was close. The penalty is from $700 to $2,000 per tree per day. That's what it says. Because this law, residents, well, we have a right to due process. I mean, I'm serious. If I'm breaking a law, is the Monroe County Sheriff going to show up at my house and have me arrested? I mean, this is such a gross overreach for private property. I believe it's unconstitutional to the Fifth Amendment for due process clause, nor shall private property be taken for the public use. The deed to my property means that I own the property, everything on it, including my trees. I may have a clause in my deed for regulating mineral rights or other rights. I do not have a clause that says the village has jurisdiction over the trees on my property. I mean, it's such an overreach. Please seriously consider this for all the exact same reasons for my comments that were hacked on my computer. He said stands with me.
Thank you, Marty.
This is crazy.
Okay, thank you. Are there anybody on the list?
That is the end of the list, if there's anybody else wishing to speak.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak this evening? Yes, Mike? Please come up to the mic and state your name and address, thanks.
Mike Reynolds, 35 Church Street. There's an aspect of this that hasn't been touched on, a complication. I understand, I used to own property in Oregon and in the city, and we had trees, we had problems with trees. My understanding is that the part of the tree that's over my property line is my tree. The part of the tree that hangs over my neighbor's yard is his tree. So all of these requirements and fines and all, how does that get apportioned to the two property owners, or three? We have a couple of large trees. We have one that we share with Marty. It's difficult enough to deal with whether or not with what should be done as the tree gets huger and huger. It's difficult enough for the two neighbors, but to also have to deal with the planning board is ridiculous.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your comment. Any other comments online?
There's not.
There's no comments online. Anybody else? Oh, yep, Justin.
Thank you, and I sent in some comments previously. First of all, Justin Bleekstra, 19.
Has the board received, just so,
Yes.
yeah, okay, just so you know, we've received the comments already.
Okay, so you're aware that you're asking the planning board to review this, and no one on the planning board has reviewed this law or consulted with their attorney, first of all. First I heard of this, I'm on the planning board, was Friday when I looked at your website. That was the first I've heard of it. I've taken a look. I have some comments that my wife had submitted. She couldn't be here today because she's sick. Can I pass these around, pass them in?
To the board?
Yeah.
Yeah, please give them to the clerk.
These are the comments. Additionally, there's a pamphlet there on zoning for urban agriculture. And how do you make zoning laws that work to support urban gardens and architecture and agriculture? First thing is to not have egregious zoning laws. So at least for my property, I have a large tree in my backyard. The insurance company gave us an issue with it when I bought my house. We had to address it. And we had no sunlight in our backyard. We wanted to garden. So we removed the large tree. We planted small trees. Now, I don't think the decision as to whether I should have a garden or not should be going to the municipality. That seems patently ridiculous, first of all. The other matter is you're also regulating pruning of trees. So I've planted, after I cut down trees, I planted, I believe, 7 fruit trees. Those are peaches, apricots, cherries. I would have to apply to a board, I believe, to prune my trees. When I prune them, I remove approximately a third to half the branches sometimes, which would seemingly qualify as heavy pruning that alters the shape of the tree profile. That is a normal agricultural process. And whether we get into a debate on that is fine. There's room for definition there. Further, I've taken a look at some zoning laws in other municipalities. I have not found a single one that requires anything to go to a municipal board unless it's part of a larger construction project. There are things where it needs to go to a building inspector or a staff member that can handle it fairly quickly. Going to a planning board usually takes 2 months. Lily, I believe you had a tree fall on your house a few years ago. My reading of this law is that tree fell on your house. You would have to apply to the planning board and wait 2 months to get approval to remove it.
Hang on, we're just going to pause that here. For the record, I'd like the attorney to speak directly to that, because that is not what's in the law as it has been written. If there is a safety issue the tree can be removed.
That guy right over there will assist you in that process.
Yeah, you don't go before a board if there's a tree on your house or there's, and I said that in the very beginning, if there's a safety issue, that is paramount. It doesn't matter if it is a 150-year-old native tree, safety comes first, period. That is not what the law says.
Okay, if I misread that, I apologize.
Yes, I believe you did. I just wanted to, because you're creating, excuse me one second, I did interrupt you because I needed to correct the record, and please now move on. Thank you.
Sorry. So when I looked at some other municipal laws, I just haven't seen a foundation for this, as I said. Typically, in other municipalities, they don't regulate small lots. One tree can dominate a small lot, as it did on my yard, which was 0.2 acres. And so residents should have some flexibility to use their yards as they like. If you want to limit this to larger lots, that is a consideration. Additionally, the comprehensive plan doesn't justify this. In general, our zoning code and
well, he should speak a little longer because I interrupted.
I paused the time.
Oh, you
so
paused
that's
the
up to
time.
board, yeah.
Okay, but no, please finish up.
Yeah, so what's in our zoning code, our comprehensive plan, is their recommendations are quite different. Their recommendations are to consider a heritage tree policy where champion trees, great trees are identified in advance, and then those particular trees are regulated rather than every single tree. Additionally, protect critical land, scenic views. That's all.
Press the button.
Again? Yeah.
Hold it.
Hold it till it turns yellow.
Okay, thank you. Protect scenic views. And what's useful about this identifies the properties in question, the trees in question in advance, and we only address the important trees. We're not spending time reviewing a weed tree in a backyard. I just don't see how that's useful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again for your comments. Yep. Hi, Dave.
David Ferris, 27 Monroe Avenue, which I think people can picture about where I am on Monroe Avenue. I agree with all the comments made previously, I'm repeating them. I think this should be set aside and we should focus on the public property, ways and the trees there, which this does address in part, but we have not done anything about it. Monroe Avenue, around my property, there are approximately 10 very mature maple trees that have all gone down. I removed those except the ones on the public way, which were between the sidewalk. It took nearly 4 years to replace one of the trees taken down. It took months after notifying the village of dangerous. The part of a tree came down and missed my house, my neighbor's house, and the remaining part was over Monroe Avenue. I think we need to come up with a better tree policy, like Bob Farnham said, appropriate trees. Ironically, in front of my house, the tree replanted is directly under the power lines, unlike the trees on the street, which are offset intentionally. The mature trees have done fine, but we've now with a tree, in a year or two, it'll be right up to the power lines because where it's placed. Ironically, my next door neighbor's house at 31 Monroe Avenue, the tree that was planted there is an invasive tree. It's a bartlett pear tree. And we're planting fruit trees, and I've sent the board documents from urban arborists that you don't plant fruit trees along public walkways and bicycle ways. It will never grow to form a canopy whatsoever. If you go by 31 Monroe, the Daniela's house, you'll see the tree I'm talking about. Totally inappropriate. So I would like the board to go back, redo this to focus on the public ways promptly, and put together a formal policy of how you replace trees with a scheduled plan of those. And Mr. Farnham has raised trees and concerns, not let them go past where there will be harm, and also plan appropriate planting and appropriate trees that will preserve the canopy in our village. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I would like to speak to the street tree management. We do have and unfortunately, our superintendent of DPW is not here tonight because he could speak to that. There is a pipeline. There are reviews. There is an arborist. Thank you. There is an arborist involved in these reviews as well. And as you know, we had COVID, so a few things were derailed in terms of where we are with street tree management. In terms of the invasive species, the Bradford pears, that were planted a while back. That part of our urban forestry management in the village for our street trees is to, over time, remove these invasive species and replace them with proper natives or non-invasives that are appropriate for the site, that don't.
Replacement tree.
To replace an invasive species.
What was replaced was putting that invasive tree in.
When was this?
The Bartlett pear tree on Monroe Avenue.
When?
Within the last 3 years.
It didn't go in. Bradford Pear did not go in, not under, it wouldn't have been under my watch. They're on the banned list for our DPW. But well, I'm going to circle back on that because I'd like to know about that for sure. Any other comments? Yeah, yeah. You already commented, excuse me.
I just wanted to say that you are correct that in the state of an emergency, there's no delay.
Yeah, thank you for that, Marty. Yeah, yes, all right. Is there anybody online?
Art Pier 70 State Street. Just a couple of quick things. I agree that there's a lot of questions around the legality of coming on the proper, you're controlling or directing what can or cannot be in this particular case, taking down trees on a private property. Whose right is that? Number one, I think. Number two, I think focusing on public right-of-way trees is probably more than enough that the village needs to handle and can handle with consideration of everything else going on. I also think that to place the responsibility on a planning board to review and then an inspector to take this on as another responsibility is more than a challenge, just from the practical consideration of what the planning board and the other boards have to deal with today, as well as the inspector. And then the whole subjectivity along the way without very clear, defined definitions, proper management, et cetera. And not to mention here again, the bottom line, is this legal? Now, on the flip side of it, for the sake of the public, myself included, it'd be interesting to hear the background and the justification or the rationale, not even the rationale, but I'd say justification for why this law is even necessary, this legislation is even necessary. Is there, and I'm rhetorical, is there a very high percentage of trees that have been taken down that negatively impacts the community at large? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Art. Any other, oops, sorry. Any other comments from the public? Anybody online? Okay, yeah, Lisa.
I just want to make a clarification. You know, this came to the board from residents. This was not brought, you know, we didn't start discussing this because somebody from the board had thought of this idea. This came from residents that asked us if we would consider doing some tree legislation. So residents really started this process and really supported us doing something to protect our trees. Remember, our trees are living history. And I do respect the fact that you feel that it's an overreach, and I certainly appreciate those comments. And it does make me think about going back and doing a lot more work on maybe somebody had mentioned the heritage tree piece, and then actually taking care of the trees that we as the village owns, and doing a better job at that. So I do appreciate that, but I just want to let you know that it did come from residents.
Yeah. It came from residents because there were a number of trees that were native trees of significance. I believe a couple of them were over 100 years old that had been cut down. And so that concern was just brought to the board, I think, as part of that. There's another comment. Would you like to come up? Thank you. Hi, Josie.
Josie Curtis, 12 Maple Street. So I was here before and gave a talk, and I'm the one who actually was asking to review this.
Can you press the button on the microphone? I think it's not activated.
So I'm the one, and the problem is not that there are sick trees which cannot be taken down, but the problem is that people move in, especially in the last 2 years. They're new in the neighborhood, and they come in and quote, it's too much work to rake acorns. And that's why they chop down 200-year-old trees. And I think that's a concern. So, you know, if people don't like trees or don't like the village, they can move somewhere else. But we are pretty aware here that we have special windows, windows made out of wood because it's the code, because we are here in a historical village. So I think, you know, we shouldn't be able to chop down trees because we are too lazy to, you know, rake some acorns. And I think that's why we should do something. There's no problem, of course, I think, if there's a dangerous tree to chop the tree down, right? But I think we should take more care of our trees here, because the last 2 years it got all of a sudden pretty empty, around some corners here. So that's why I think this is important. And of course, trees can always be dangerous. Life is dangerous, and things might happen. We cannot foresee, and probably also an arborist cannot foresee what might happen. I think we are on the way there. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Oh, yes, I see a hand in the back. Yes, please come up. Yep. Hi, Abby.
Abby McRae, 25 Washington Avenue. Perhaps some work needs to be done on the wording of this proposal, but I'm also in favor of a heritage tree plan, support and maintenance of street trees, helping residents replace trees if they can't afford it, maybe if a tree comes down and needs to be replaced for the overall good of the canopy. I think it would be a great idea to identify the heritage trees in the village, and then speak to residents about that, to have this be a dialogue with residents, not an oppressive sort of you must cut your tree down or not cut your tree down, but just have a conversation about a particular tree. And it is difficult to determine a dangerous tree. Right in our neighborhood, an enormous fir tree almost with Dave's house, and within a few feet of your house, it was really scary. Luckily, it just fell down across the road, and I went out and helped get rid of it. But so yeah, dangerous things can happen, but we live in this village largely because of its beauty, and a huge part of that beauty is the living history and canopy. And when trees are just taken out willy-nilly for no real reason, the tree isn't sick, it's not dangerous. It just creates all these really ugly gaps, and I'm not sure exactly what to do about that, but I've noticed it too around the village, and I like to preserve the leafy environment that we have here. I think it's just as important as every other aspect of the village. So that's,
yeah, thank you for your comments. One thing that I was just thinking of, when we did do the comp plan, we had focus groups, and many of you came to the focus groups. In fact, they were held here, several of them. And one of the things we had whiteboards, and one of the things that was repeatedly put forth by residents across the board was the beauty of the village, the natural beauty of the village, the canal and the trees and the streetscape because of that. And so I think that was sort of the intention of where this legislation came from, as you say, with the residents speaking up about it. Maybe we need to revisit it. We're getting some good feedback, and I appreciate everybody's comments. They all matter. And we want to make sure we're doing things right for the majority of our residents here. So any other comments? Yeah. Oh.
To Lisa's comment, is that okay?
Pardon me?
Maybe quick.
Come on, real quick, and then we're going to.
Dave McGill again, 28 Washington Ave. Lisa, I find it a little disturbing how you presented the process. So you proposed a pretty major legislation, the board did tonight, and you're saying it's based on a few opinions that some residents shared with you. We heard from one resident about, not happy with people that maybe don't want to rake their acorns. But to go from some residents sharing an opinion with you based on no data that they've collected or studies that they've done, and then you guys quickly turned it into a very major, with very large penalties for the residents, without doing serious due diligence, without doing your own homework, without talking to people. And like I said,
looking at canopies from Google Maps going back decades to see, well, what kind of reduction do we have? Do we have a problem? I find that concerning that that's how something like this can come to be. A couple of people sharing their opinion. So I respectfully request the board do a little more homework before you come to us with things like this that include hefty fines. And again, this screams to me of a solution looking for a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. That's why we have public hearings. This is good to get the feedback. Yeah, any?
Thanks for your additional comments, Dave. Just to put a little light on it, we listen to residents, right? So when residents come before us with ideas or concerns about street trees, we had brought this to the board and actually voted it down a year and a half ago, roughly. We created a heritage tree program. It doesn't quite go as far as the comprehensive plan, which was to protect heritage trees. It created a heritage tree program where the owners of trees could essentially submit them to the village, and for that they would be protected, and the village would assume some degree of arborist expense to ensure that that tree is protected moving forward. I believe that was adopted and we have that legislation, or was it just simply not yet formalized?
It was never adopted.
Never adopted, but written?
No.
Because then we moved into this.
Right.
Okay. So the first path and iteration of this was this idea of taking some of these really big old trees or really important trees to the village identity and protecting them. It morphed into a broader legislation that wasn't passed by this board. And we had many resident comments that brought it back. And my name's been next to this ordinance on the agenda for probably 6 months now.
Yeah, easily.
Because the purpose of doing this and having these conversations is to move things forward in a way that we think may be appropriate, but to get and garner public opinion all along the way. A public hearing is specifically designed to get the feedback that we're getting tonight, to hear from you and to hear what we say, or to hear what we're thinking and to get that feedback. When you have a public hearing, it doesn't say you're going to vote on it tonight and pass it. It may feel like that sometimes, but that's not the way this works, right? It works with 5 people who are here in the village trying to represent us all and think about what the right thing to do and hear concerns and bring up ideas and bring it back. And sometimes if you're in opposition to something, you don't respond until you see a legislation that scares you. And that's kind of what I'm hearing tonight. And I think that's good, right? We were nervous about it on this board a year and a half ago. But with enough resident input, you bring it back and you circle it back and you regurgitate it. And sometimes it may fall flat. Like based on comments tonight, I probably don't want to vote on this today. I want to continue to think about it. It may be an issue of diameter. It might be revisiting the heritage tree. It might be going back to the comp plan and say, let's focus on that first. But this is how government works. And so be respectful to the process and how it happens, and every member on this board and this committee. That's all I ask.
I echo Dave's sentiments. That's why we have public hearings. That's why this has come before the board for months, where at any point, there's always public input is always welcome. So this isn't a negative thing. This is a positive thing. This is what we want. We want the participation. And that's why I said, everybody's comments are appreciative. I am concerned about loss of canopy. We should maybe revisit this. That's where I'm at right now. Maybe we need to really revisit this and say, what would that look like going forward? We've received a wide range of input, mostly people against what is being presented tonight. Yeah, is there any other comment? Yeah, Lily?
Do I need to push the button?
There you go. You're live. You're live.
Thank you very much. Again, I thank you all for your comments. I appreciate them very much. And what my takeaway is from this evening is that, from my personal perspective, I would like to go back and revisit, as Mr. Farnham said, the original intent of the tree canopy replacement on village property that we own, to concentrate on our street trees and our arboretum that we are lucky to have in our village, and put that as our effort going forward to increase our canopy, things that we have control over. As far as the heritage trees are concerned, I would also like the board to revisit that program, so that that would be in cooperation with the property owner, who would bring that tree attention to the village, and we could collaboratively come up with a heritage tree program that benefits both the property owner as well as all of us as a village to protect our heritage trees. Thank you very much, because it was very helpful to me this evening to hear all of your comments.
You're good.
I mean, usually we would close the public hearing before bringing it back to the board, but should we do that at this point if there's no further public comment?
Yeah. I know, we should.
We got nothing.
We have, okay, just. Is there a motion to close the hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing on tree legislation.
Second.
Second.
We have a second.
Trustee Lightgib.
Aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, and now it's officially back to the board.
Thank you. I appreciate all the comments tonight. This legislation, or different forms of it, have been in front of us for several months, and I appreciate the discussion on the board. I've offered several suggestions to actually make the current code less restrictive. If you compare this to the copy about 6 months ago, it was actually quite a bit more intense and I believe burdensome on the homeowner. I think it's better than it was, but I'm still not in favor of supporting this legislation tonight. And likewise, I would like to shift the focus to trees in the public right of way and in village-owned property, including the arboretum. And also echo the sentiments that the comprehensive plan request was for a heritage tree program, which we've also talked about supporting.
You know, I would like to throw something out to all of you tonight.
You're on.
Whoops.
You're on. You are on.
Am I, was I on?
Yeah.
I can't tell anymore. Oh, yes, I am. I would like to just throw this out, and this was, this is a program that's been effective downstate, and many of you may remember, let's see, it was about 3.5, 4 years ago when RG&E came through and just hacked a lot of our street trees to clear them from the power lines. And we received a lot of strong feedback from our residents and also from the board at the time and from me. My concern is that, you know, we lose some of those trees under the power line. Some of them actually had to go because they were so damaged by the contractors that came through. And so when you plant a tree again underneath the power line, it's sort of wash, rinse, repeat. There is several programs downstate, and the acronym is called BROW, Beyond the Right of Way. And so other communities recognizing that utilities have the right of way to come through and really just clear street trees underneath those power lines. It takes precedence. These communities make it available to property owners to plant a tree from the community in the yard on the other side of the sidewalk. And it would be a native tree, and it would still provide canopy, but it is less likely to be damaged by growing into those power lines directly under the power lines. And I just want to throw that out. That may be something else that we can implement in our community as a cooperative effort, where we can provide the tree, we could plant it, take care of it for 1 year. I think that's how the program has worked downstate. I've talked to a number of mayors at NICOM about this. It's been highly effective, and it's been a great way to really manage street trees by having participation with residents. Plus, you get a nice tree in your yard that's a little closer to the sidewalk, but still is contributing to the canopy. So I just wanted to throw that out as an idea. Yeah, Lisa.
One last thing. I just wanted to say, I hear you. I hear every one of you, and you've really brought some great perspective to the way I will probably not support this legislation tonight. I think that I'm going to really veer on the side of more of a heritage tree program and also the care of our own village trees. I think that if we spend time and energy on that, I think that that's going to be a time well spent. So I am not going to support this legislation tonight.
So we don't have to take a vote tonight?
No, we don't have to take a vote.
We're not going to take a vote.
I'll just offer some
We're tabling it. We're
Yeah, we
tabling,
table it.
okay, you know.
Sounds good.
You know.
Now, I do want to make a comment, though, on how laws are adopted. And one of the things that I often look at, which is how can this change after the public hearing but still be adopted? So specifically, and I'll talk a little bit about this in the short-term rental legislation as well, but as long as it's no more restrictive. So essentially, you can take a law, this one, for example, that says a tree is anything 6 inches in diameter, and we could change that to 48 inches. Right? And you've still gone through the public hearing, you've still gone through the process, you've still heard comment. We could also go into law and radically reduce the fees, right, or the penalty. So the question is one of structure, not necessarily of size. Or you can manage it in a way where what do you need to get to in order for it to be a supported legislation? So early on, we were having some discussion as to what is considered a tree. Is it 12 inches, 6 inches, 18 inches? And I was prepared to come into this legislation and think about, what is considered a tree? How wide is it? How big is it? And that, by the sheer size becomes like a heritage tree. But I'm also comfortable restarting and just trying to look at it as, let's have just a heritage tree format. But what is that? And again, you're going to have to decide what constitutes a heritage tree, because the comprehensive plan does tell us to protect them.
Okay, thank you. Okay. The next item up is short-term rental legislation.
Our list. Are you ready?
Yes, you got.
Oh, you got to open the
We have to
public
open the
hearing.
public hearing first.
Yes.
Is there a motion to open?
I make a motion to open the public hearing on short-term rental. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgib.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Lampier.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, the public hearing is now open on the short-term rental legislation. The village clerk has a list.
I have a list.
And we have a list.
And we have a list.
We have a list. Mike Reynolds.
Mike, do you want me to name?
It's okay. Previously, we've had a lot.
Oh, just name and address again for the record.
Mike Reynolds, 35 Church Street. We've had a lot of comments about short-term rentals. And we've heard how wonderful it is to have visitors who have a great weekend here. And I just want to say, yeah, that's great if visitors have a great weekend, but I'm more concerned, and the board needs to be more concerned about that, not about these visitors who don't support local businesses. They don't support the Canal Bed and Breakfast. They don't support the Del Monte Inn. They support people who are almost invisible, except for the fact that they're annoying their neighbors. I'm more concerned about whether Art Pierce has a nice weekend than whether some visitor has a nice weekend.
Thank you for your comments. Next. I'm getting the hang of this.
Yeah, we're out of our normal environment.
I know.
That's what's messing us up. David Wilkes.
Hi, David. Name and address for the record, please.
David Wilkes, 19 East Jefferson Road.
It's not on.
Hold the button.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go. Thank you.
Perfect. So look, as a resident, homeowner, taxpayer, I think my biggest concern, if I'm just being honest, is the fact that there was a report that was put together in the fall of 2023, the Pittsburgh Village Board of Trustees commissioned a committee of community volunteers who put together this report, right? I may be incorrect in how I'm looking at the existing law and the new map and all of that, but it looks like the existing stock of short-term rentals, which I guess it's something under 20. Again,
I think it's 16?
15. 15, okay. I don't know what that is as a percentage of total housing stock here, but it's something.
It's less than 0.5%.
Okay, so a small amount, de minimis, right? Whatever, I'm not sitting here saying that we should allow unlimited STRs. That's not my problem. My problem is, I think the way that it's written, I could be wrong, is that some of the existing 15 may be deemed illegal under this new, like, they cannot continue to operate.
They're going to be sunsetted.
Sunset, right? As I look at this report, you know, I'm afraid of litigation from those people, that they may sue, you know, the village, in the sense of saying, well, why are we no longer able to operate? I look at some of the findings from this report, you know, found that the local sheriff deputies had no recollection of any police incidents regarding STRs violating regulations that already exist in Pittsburgh Village. In addition, the committee interviewed the local hotels and found that there were no impacts to hotel occupancy known to be caused by STRs. The local management of the Del Monte Lodge indicated there was no impact from Airbnbs in Pittsburgh Village, and there was no awareness that STRs existed in the village. It's just, you know, it seems like they're kind of operating silently. I mean, I didn't know that there were any STRs when I moved here. I'm afraid of us, the tax dollars that I'm, you know, spending here. I plan on living here for a long time, seeing my kids go to the public schools here. I don't want it to be used paying lawyers, no offense to lawyers, but.
Wait now.
But I'd rather it be, you know, be used on things that are helpful here. I don't know, sidewalks or something, or fixing roads, something like that. It seems like there's been a lot of tax dollars in the past used towards lawyers. I think 75 Monroe comes up. So I just don't, I'm not saying that we should allow like unlimited, but again, if there's some way to grandfather in this, again, it sounds like de minimis number of STRs that based off of data haven't had any really huge negative ramifications on the village. I just don't want us to get sued again and have my tax dollars just go towards lawyers. That's it.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, please.
Jean Cardamon?
Jean?
Yes.
Cardamon, would you like to speak? You're on the list.
I'm not on the list, I just put me on the list.
Somebody did. Jean, you were drafted.
I think the board.
Just name and address for the record.
16 Lincoln Avenue, Pittsburgh, New York. That's I have an Airbnb. I live at Bush Hills Basin.
Pick a place.
5 Silver Pines Drive. I am an Airbnb owner. I'm really not sure I agree with that. I'm sorry, what was your name?
David. What's
Stephen?
David.
David.
My brother's name is Steve.
Okay. I agree with him in the fact that we're already existing. We've never had any issues. None of us have had any issues. I know all the people that do have Airbnbs. I'm really not sure what the issue is. I know I've heard from some of the residents, they feel like we bring people, strangers in. You guys have heard all the, I think the same comments. The people we bring in love the village. A lot of them are residents from years ago that have lived in the village. And they come back, their children are move away, they come back, they want to visit their parents, and vice versa. Parents go away. I've had several people come and stay with me that are having medical things going on. And at the Strong, we've got some great hospitals here. They really want to live in the village because they've been here before and they want to come back to the village. So I really don't understand what the issue is and why it became an issue. But I think if I agree that we should, if you want to restrict a certain amount of them, I can see that. But the ones that are here now, there's been no problem with the village, none whatsoever. Obviously, my comment would be, let the ones that are here stay and maybe restrict other people, or maybe make some things that go into what if they get accepted as an Airbnb, they have certain restrictions. How many times they can rent, how long they can rent, those types of things. So for me, if you guys said no more Airbnbs, I would change mine to permanent rentals. I change all mine to permanent rentals, like Mike Newcomb does. Whether he takes, I shouldn't say that, whether they are taken care of as well as Airbnbs, I'm not sure. Because I think that's another issue. Sometimes people that have permanent rentals in the city of Rochester, I buy other places that don't take care of their rentals at all, and they're a mess. I also have a resident next door to me that doesn't take care of his property. It looks like Tobacco Road, and nobody does anything with that. If you looked at the house, It's got no siding on the side of it. When I went there, he had stoves, refrigerators, a dump in his backyard. Nobody did anything about it. I think the attorney raised his eyebrows when I mentioned that, because nobody did anything about it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know.
No, I did not raise my eyebrows. That's
Well, I
ridiculous.
think you mentioned so because I said that the resident next door to me didn't have any siding on his house.
I never talked to you about that issue.
Well, you didn't talk to me. I just
Okay.
said, when I mentioned it in a meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I
Yeah.
think you should take a look at things like that
Okay.
also.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Hang on one second, please. Jean, wait a minute. I'm sorry, Lily?
Yes, I have a point of clarification because I like to follow up on that. Did you say your address is 16 Lincoln Avenue?
16 Lincoln Avenue.
That is your residence?
16 Lincoln Avenue.
And you live at 16
No.
Lincoln Avenue?
No,
I
he
live there.
didn't say that.
It's my Airbnb is at 16 Lincoln Avenue.
Oh, well, we asked at the beginning of the.
He gave his home address, which is in Bushnell Space.
Pines Drive, Pittsburgh, New York.
Okay, and is that where the siding was missing on your neighbor or 16 Lincoln?
16 Lincoln Avenue.
Thank you.
So the siding is missing next door to your Airbnb?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, we're just trying to clarify.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Gutters are missing, siding's falling off, it's everything.
okay, we're going to follow up. Thank you so much for your comments. Appreciate it. Who's next on the list?
Emily Diaz? Emily Smallwood Diaz, I missed.
Hi, Emily.
My full legal name.
Name and address for the record, please.
Emily Smallwood Diaz, 81 South Street.
Oh, can we press the button to activate the, you're going to wait for the yellow light, please.
Yellow light.
Okay.
I first want to commend the board on taking steps to set up the rental registry. I think that's a step in the right direction for ensuring compliance with safety measures for our residents and community. However, I strongly urge the board to reconsider or amend the legislation being presented tonight, as in its current form, it would be putting the majority of STR owners out of business, the current ones. The village's reputation with business community is already suffering, a sentiment that we all heard about a week ago at the roundtable discussion you all held. So this yet again is another signal to business community that Pittsford Village is a hostile place to conduct business. And quite frankly, as others have mentioned tonight, I worry that this is opening us up to litigation yet again. I am unclear why we would punish individuals who have invested in our community. At the last public hearing, the Chamber of Commerce and many of the STR owners begged the board to reconsider this legislation and offered to sit down with you all to discuss a way to work together and seek compromise. I'm curious if an olive branch was ever extended. I choose to live in this village versus a traditional subdivision because I want a mix of people and businesses, including visitors. We talk a lot about preserving the character of our village. Well, in my opinion, STRs are part of that character. My hope is that we can strike a balance and that the board will seize the value and the investment that these business owners and tourists bring and grandfather in the existing STRs and focus on instead regulating future eligibility of new STRs. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Who's next on the list, please?
Gabriel Diaz?
Hi, Gabe.
Hey,
Name and address for the record, please.
Gabriel Diaz, 81 South Street. I'll try and not repeat what was said unless I think we've already said, unless it's really important to me. And there are a few things that are really important. So it seems like what we're talking about is a potential action that was put forth by the committee that would put, by the trustees, that would put a lot of people out of business on very short notice. It's a severe action. I think it's really quite, I would say it's heavy-handed, I've used language before. It's really quite severe and requires clear communicated justification for such a.
Press the button. Wait for the yellow light. Hold it. I'm in Rangoon.
Okay. So it's a pretty severe action, and I feel that there should be a high standard for justification. And I have been paying attention to this. I do not feel that the trustees have communicated why enough information so that I feel it has reached that high standard for justification to put a bunch of business owners out of business on short notice.
Battery's probably
Yeah,
dying.
Yeah, battery's done. I'll
Oh,
try
here,
and
here.
project, or, okay.
Switch. Switch it out.
Thank you very much. All right, so what I've been saying is there should be a high standard for justification. It should be clearly communicated. As others before me have said, we don't understand why such a heavy-handed proposal has been put forward yet, and I think that's a real problem. I have been paying attention to this along the way. So what I've gathered from the trustees so far is that this is an act intended to preserve the historic charm of the village. I hear this line quite a bit from the trustees. And I understand we should be able to do that, but we have to balance that with cultivating an environment that is welcoming of business. And this is absolutely not that. This is sending a loud and clear message to residents of the Pittsburgh Village and far beyond that we are a hostile environment to businesses. And I think that's horrible. I'd also, as others have said, opens us up to litigation. So going forward, I'm asking the trustees, once again, I've said this before, please, before putting forward potential legislation that will be broadcast beyond our community to potential investors, developers, that we should be trying to attract to consider the optics. I think we've done already that we're at a point where we've already done severe damage to our village based on what has been proposed in what has been proposed. It would shut down many businesses, and I'll finish with a very quick anecdote. The other day, I was at a party with some friends. A brewmaster from a large and successful business in the city of Rochester was there. We discussed the closing of Copperleaf. This brewmaster laughed in my face when I suggested he consider opening a business in that location, now that we know Copperleaf is closing, because of the reputation we have as a village for business owners. We are only making it worse. Please consider that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you. Who's next on the list, please?
We actually have someone online to speak. Where?
Can you grab that microphone and turn it off? Because we're going to run the battery down, please.
Okay, all we have is HVAO president. You're able to speak?
Hi, good evening. This is Peter Goodman at 91 South Main Street. I was just curious of, is there any record of infractions that occurred in the past by tenants of these short-term rentals that negatively impacted the village?
Hang on. Hi, Peter. It's Mayor Plummer. Steve, could you respond to have there been any complaints or infractions cited for?
This is my 7th year in the village of Pittsburgh, and I have never received one complaint about an STR.
Okay, so to date,
no.
The answer is no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for calling in. Is there anybody else
on the list?
On the list or where are we?
The list, we're done on the list, and we don't have anybody else online at this time.
We got some people.
Okay, we have other people wishing to speak. Yes, come on up, Marty.
I'll make this brief.
Yeah.
Marty Martina, 30 Locust Street. Years ago when this discussion first came up, I related a situation, not exactly like ours, but similar, where, and first of all, I must say I do not have any problems with, and I know we don't have associated issues with short-term rentals. I have no complaints against them. What I do want to relate is that my sister has lived in Bar Harbor, Maine. I know we're not Bar Harbor, Maine, but they're light years ahead of us in the terms that they are a tourist town. We are somewhat of a small tourist town, but they have literally been overtaken by investors buying into properties to the point where my sister has lived in the village for 45 years and she's in one of the last apartments and she's being forced out. So Bar Harbor, Maine has put a moratorium on, and the board admittedly says we're 10 years too late. We've destroyed the character of our village. My concern with the villages is that we're so tiny, we're so compact, the desirability to live here is so high that we're taking housing stock off of the market, because never underestimate a business's desire to come in and eventually, may not happen today, may not happen tomorrow, but the laws that are passed today have repercussions that last for decades. And as an example, I'm relating my sister's situation where after 45 years, she's forced out of her situation. Bar Harbor, Maine is actually the town is putting in subsidized apartments to try and accommodate the people who've lived in the village for a long period of time who are forced out because rents are so high, and businesses ultimately came in, took over all the housing stock. So, your decisions these days have lasting repercussions down the road.
Thank you, Marty, for that. Yeah, I'm familiar with that situation. I have friends who live up there. It's quite different. Yeah, is there any more? Yes, Art? Mike?
Firstly, I apologize.
Still on.
Apologize for the voice. So thank you. I mean, there's a lot to cover in this, but I'll try to just be more bullets down the line. First of all, I think the bottom line is, unfortunately, we get off the subject here, the central issue here. We're talking about businesses within residential districts. Residential districts should be where people reside, not for accommodations such as Airbnbs, Venmo, or anything like that, whether they be privately owned or corporate owned or equity owned, sort of thing. It is residential neighborhoods that should retain the nature and character of that for the benefit of the current taxpayer residents, as well as the housing stock that we talk about. Every house that turns over to short-term rental, that's one less housing stock, both for the current generation and the future generations. We have to stay on record on that point. I don't think, and the board can correct me if I'm wrong, it's not a matter of outright disallowing short-term rentals. It's allowing them in commercial districts, special districts within the village, but not in residentials. What about the current property owners that have to live next to a short-term rental, not knowing week to week who's going to be next to them, number one. Number two, if I was selling my house, if the potential buyer knew there was a short-term rental, that would probably negatively impact my house in being sold, sort of thing. As far as lawsuits, we cannot, the village cannot, no municipality cannot be legislating laws based on the threat of lawsuits. There will always be lawsuits, sort of thing. I didn't, if I'm not mistaken, the governor just had a new law, a recent law, as far as short-term rentals, and basically putting them in the same category as Airbnb. I wish that, and I respect those that have put money into it, but I don't think it's a hardship with consideration of the property values that have increased over time. I wish that the board take all these points into consideration, and here again, the bottom line, respecting the current residents, future, here we go.
Press the button, yeah.
Future generations. I heard at one meeting somebody was very concerned about they can't have people come and visit relatives that lived in the area before. Well, what about the children of the current residents that won't be able to have housing in the village if there's a complete depreciation of residential housing? As far as the old and very old, and it's getting obnoxiously old, the statement that the village of Pittsford is not a good place to do business. I ask everybody to consider the number of great property owners, commercial businesses, restaurants, and others that have been here for many a year. It'd be great to reach out to them and those that are complaining about the village and how hard they are. I respectfully disagree with that from a personal experience appearing before many municipalities. And in fact, I think there was one local businessman, a very successful businessman, who expands in the area, who actually appeared before one of these boards at one point in the past and said that if anything, you're too easy relative to other communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
You gave it to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
are there any other comments? Yes. Oh. microphone back.
Hi, Brenda LaRocco with 5 West Jefferson. I just had a
Hey,
comment.
Brenda, hold on. You live at 5 West Jessup, or that's your Airbnb?
Half of the year I live at 5 West Jefferson.
And then you rent it out the other half?
Correct, yeah. Just a response to the previous comments is that I'm more concerned with long-term rentals and what that does for property values. Most of these people who have these long-term rentals do not really take care of their properties. So these short-term rentals, the 15 of us, which is such a small, like you said, like less than 1%, where these long-term rentals, I believe when we talked about numbers at one of these meetings, I want to say, I think there was like 1,900 houses in the village.
No, we don't have 19.
2,000 in the immediate village.
We have
Housing, you're thinking of
600
population. You're not thinking of housing.
We have about 1,300 residents.
Right.
Okay.
I think housing is 650.
600.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like 30% long-term rentals, something like those numbers that we talked about at one of these?
Yeah,
meetings?
It was like 26.
It's in the
It's gonna
20s,
change
between
now.
20 and 30.
Most of those rents are between $1,100 and $1,800, and who that allows to come into these properties is more of a concern. These are college kids. Now, people who are coming into these short-term rentals that are able to afford the rents, and these people that are coming in are like people across the world. It's people coming in for job interviews. It's just a higher quality caliber of people, and it's not really something to be concerned about compared to long-term.
Thank you so much for your comments, Brenda. I can take the microphone over here. Alexandria can take the microphone. You're kind of on this, aren't you? Steve, could you just speak to, there was a question asked about any violations or complaints about short-term rentals. Can you speak to that relative to long-term rentals? Because we do have a greater number. Are we getting any complaints regarding long-term rentals?
I've probably, since I've been here, I might have had 3 or 4 complaints about long-term rentals in the village.
Complaints about maintenance or about activity there?
Maintenance, not activity.
Okay, so, just so kind of giving you the picture here for everybody. Any other comments from the public? Oh, yep. Come on up, Dan. Hi, Dan.
Hello, my name is Dan Clifford, property owner at 8 State Street, and for the record, this is the least favorite thing that I like to do. I can see both sides of short-term rentals as positive, and some of the people that don't necessarily agree with it. But I think there's a lot of benefits to short-term rentals in the village for a lot of reasons. One being sort of safety and that kind of the idea that there's some threat to the community. I disagree. I think they're vetted guests. I would be more concerned if I lived in the village and had a bus stop or somebody at the hotel, because you don't know who's coming and going. That being said, these guests are also some of the greatest ambassadors to the village of Pittsford. It took a while to read all the comments for a lot of the Airbnbs in the village here. They're all positive responses to their stay. Also with, taking up inventory, I don't believe that's a real issue. Inventory is an issue everywhere. And if somebody wants to take a property, specifically it's in a residential area, because things have changed. Airbnb and short-term rentals are now a business, which before they weren't. So I think it's a good use for in that, those specific areas. Also, I think that these people that are here, first of all, the community is great, the current residents are great, and do a lot for the community, but through their time as residents, their patterns change, everything changes. But the people that are coming here to visit, their pattern is to spend, to enjoy the amenities that we have to offer, and have people come and visit after they have a positive experience. So I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Yep. Set it up there. You turn it off.
Oh, you turned it off. Yeah, if it's turned off. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yep. Real quick. Let's just
real quick.
hear everybody out here.
All right, David Wilkes, 19 East Jefferson Road. Just an anecdotal, story here. I know a lot of people have talked about the difference between STRs and actual rental properties here. When my wife and I moved to the village, it was 2022. It was extremely hard to get houses. We didn't even get a chance to do any type of visits or safety checks. Sight unseen, I said, whatever the price is, we want the house. And it was the only one that was available. So we got the house, and it was a rental. And it was, to be honest, there was a lot of problems with it. We went in, we immediately did a radon testing. It was dangerous levels of radon. So we had to get that put in. I'm a cancer survivor, so I was like, this is important. We had open sewer pipes. There was a open issue with one of the sewer pipes was cracked, and there was no cap on top of it. So I put in the last 2 years $30,000 of home improvements, and I plan to put in another 100, 200,000 to make it a really, really good house. And so that's a benefit, I think, to the village. And everyone I talked to who's purchased a rental home in the village, they said the same thing. They're like, oh my God, like my house was terrible too. Like there were all these problems, it wasn't taken care of. So, again, it's anecdotal, but it sounds like some of the rental homes have not been taken care of as well. And based off of, again, I looked at some of the reviews on Google, Vrbo and Airbnb. People love the quality. Like the houses look beautiful. They're like, oh, it's so quaint, really charming, it's top notch. So it's nice to see that the owners, many of which are village residents as well, are taking care of those properties. So thanks.
Thank you for the comment. Okay. We're good. Let's bring it back. We have to close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lanfair?
Aye.
Trustee Lightgib?
Aye.
Trustee Marshall?
Aye.
Trustee Coe?
Aye.
Mayor Plummer?
Aye. Okay, it's back to the board. Any comments from the board?
I have.
Does this work or is this the devil?
It should work.
Yes, do better.
Okay, we're back. We're live.
Given what we have heard here this evening, and also given the information that we have received from the Planning and Zoning Board, which I would like to elaborate on a little bit if I might. The Planning and Zoning Board, as part of this process, made a determination on what is called the Local Waterfront Revitalization Program. And that is part of the legislation, and it cannot be passed. This legislation cannot be passed without that positive declaration from the Planning and Zoning Board. They made that recently, and then they also added to the information given to the trustees for their consideration as they consider this legislation. There were findings of fact and also some suggested changes to the legislation that the Planning and Zoning Board would like the trustees to consider. Given that information, I would like to suggest to the board that we take it back to a subsequent meeting and discuss what Planning and Zoning Board has proposed and consider and discuss it, and perhaps with the Planning and Zoning Board, so we understand fully what they are suggesting, changes to our code. And two, also consider changes to the existing legislation to make it less restrictive. We can do that. If the legislation is less restrictive, we can make that consideration. So my suggestion to the board this evening is to continue our deliberation regarding this legislation.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board at this point? I would like to just say one thing about the fact that short-term rentals remove housing stock. Excuse me. So people can't buy a house. We're hearing comments from people that if the legislation were to be passed, they would simply create long-term rentals. Well, long-term rentals removes housing stock for purchase as well. I just wanted to make note of that. It's the same.
Except for long-term rentals, provide opportunities for residents. They become residents, they become a fabric of the community.
Understood.
Right, they
Understood.
become a part of the community, they know their neighbors, they live here, they get their mail here, they vote here, so it's very different. Short-term and long-term rentals are very different. I think there is room for both, and I think that that we have some room to take a look at our current legislation, but we have tried to provide districts for short-term rentals, because I do feel that there is value to short-term rentals. So we did take that under consideration by providing districts for those rentals. But I agree with Lily. I would like to honor the experience and knowledge of our own zoning and planning board, talk with them, and take this back and, again, take under consideration all the comments that have been brought forth to us tonight. So thank you for that.
Thanks again for everybody's comments and coming out. Just a few things. So 16 short-term rentals, I think, but with 650 homes, 16 short-term rentals is 2.4%. That's a pretty considerable amount if every community allows.
It's more than 650.
Well, 600.
Could be more than
I think
650.
there's
Could
more
be
than
more.
650.
We were just throwing out a number,
The
so
point being that
don't hold us to it.
16 isn't nothing. And, but more importantly, if, when I went to buy my house, somebody said next door is a short-term rental, I wouldn't have bought it. I have kids, I raised them here basically, right? They walk to school, they play outside, they run to the neighbors, and every single Friday night when I come home from work, they said, Dad, can I go out to play? I'd say, hang on a second, let me see who's next door. I am not gonna leave that up to a website that I have no autonomy or no oversight over. I'm not gonna leave it up to a rating system. I'm gonna leave it up to me and my ability as a parent to get to know my neighbor over time and to know whether or not my kids in the village that I live are safe. And the last thing I want is for anybody who's bought a home and invested in this community. I recognize there's investments of outside people renting, right? These are investments, don't get me wrong, like I respect the investments that people make. But the residents that are here that do no fault of their own, a short-term hotel came in next door. For them to have to, for the rest of their lives, have essentially a hotel, a business next door. I recognize long-term rentals are businesses too, but a short-term rental is decidedly different. For them to have to accept that in perpetuity because of a decision internally that the village made within our administration or the building inspector determination, again, these are decisions that were made. We have an opportunity to correct. This law, right, the way it's crafted, again, going back to my original point, we have the opportunity to make it less restrictive. We wrote the law with a 1-year term. Out of respect for businesses, their investment, and the understanding that it's no fault of their own that these things happened, we put a moratorium in place. This moratorium went in place, 3 months after we got elected? And we've been working on it ever since, right? And we continue to work on it. The challenge is to get to a point where you respect everybody, right? But as a representative and elected person for residents in the village, my first respect is to that resident who purchased that home and wants to know their community and build a community. There are opportunities for short-term rentals embedded in this code to go to where we have mixed-use districts, to go in second floors in Main Street, to go on Shane Place. But in residential neighborhoods where we have an opportunity to say, let's reverse this and do it considerably and consciously to the residents or the business owners who invested in our community and respect that, I was prepared similarly to the tree ordinance to ask the question, what is that time frame? How can we say to you, I respect you, I respect your investment, I understand the challenges. There's absolutely no reason why we should be ripping away an opportunity that you had first mover advantage. Potentially, if we grandfather you and nobody else, you have an ISO, like a protected class. I mean, the opportunity set for you moving forward on that is quite wonderful. So is it not 1 year, but 2? Is it not 2, but 3? And there's somewhere where I hope everybody can understand that we're respecting everybody involved. The legislation to come to public hearing was written with 1 year in mind. So I'm comfortable waiting, listen to our planning board. But as I raise my kids and I think about buying homes and I think about the next buyer of a home in this community, think of it this way. If you put your home up for market and had a sign, hey, this home's for sale, and by the way, there's a short-term rental next door, some families are gonna care. I would. And that's how my vote will fall.
Thank you. Yep. Any other comments from board members? Anybody wanting to weigh in? Anybody wanting to weigh in? Oh, we still have people who want to comment. Does the board want to receive a couple
Let's see,
more
it
comments?
sounds like Justin, do you have?
Did you have a, okay, but, yeah.
If I could comment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the thoughts from the public and the planning board and the trustees who have weighed in. We've considered this legislation for a while. I think that I'd be open to further discussions about it. And I also respect the fact that we can lighten this legislation somewhat to either make the period longer for transition of properties, or potentially even allow current, the strongest argument that I hear against the legislation is about the current property owners. We could potentially even eliminate that clause and reconsider it later, and consider like a year-long phase out or something, at which point we wouldn't really be any farther ahead than, or farther beyond than we are at this point. So I just wanted to toss that out there, but again, I'm okay discussing this in future sessions as well.
I do see other hands up. Does the board wish to receive just another couple of comments? I mean, you know, this is an important discussion, so if you could please come up. Anybody who wants to comment, please come up again and state your name for the record, and we know that you want to be brief.
Yeah, I actually have a question.
Okay, question.
Thank you, Gabriel Diaz, 81 South Street. The question is, there was some appeal to delaying, so the planning and zoning board could weigh in, but it was quite an opaque comment. Could someone summarize what the planning and zoning board might, what's going on there? Why you wanted to delay it to hear the planning and zoning board? It really wasn't clear to the audience.
Yeah, you brought it up. You're good. It's live.
Okay. Typically, questions are not directed to individual board members.
But anyone who wants to respond.
I could defer if he was willing. The planning and zoning chair is here, and he could elaborate more concisely for you what they would like us to consider. That's your question. You want to know specifically what it was the planning and zoning board brought to our attention that they would wish us as a board to consider. And
Justin, I know you had your hand up too. So
That's a good question,
he is the
Dave.
correct individual.
So thank you for the question.
Yeah, the reason I raised my hand is mostly to see if you guys had any questions on any of the correspondence.
Hey, Justin, the microphone's right here. Hit it on.
Oh, you turned it off?
Justin, I have your email if you wanted to take a look at that. I mean, I think that Gabe wants to kind of know specifics of what you thought you would recommend to us that we want to evaluate.
Yeah, if you, excuse me one second, if you could briefly address, just sort of what this board has indicated that they would like to discuss with the planning and zoning board. And you're going to be timed on that, am I correct? Yeah, we're running out of time.
The first reason I raised my hand was there was some correspondence. I just wanted to see if you had any questions on it. The original correspondence on the LWRP review, the resolution for that, I believe is in your meeting package. And there's a few comments in there, particular to waterfront district, for example, to add waterfront amenities to properties involved for rentals, that we're going to allow them. And there's a few other comments in there. I think the bulk of our comments and my concerns in particular were on the structure of the law. And there is some recommendations on how to grossly simplify the structure of the law so it didn't conflict with our code. Those comments were not addressing the policy, so they were not asking for policy changes. And if there's any questions in the audience, the planning board was not getting involved necessarily in policy. People have their individual opinions. But we were not asked for comments on the policy, which is why you didn't get it. If you wanted to do a formal referral to the planning board for more suggestions, we might give it. If you guys wanted to have a joint meeting with the planning board, I think that might be well received. We could hash out some ideas maybe. Anyway, did you have any questions on any of the correspondence thus far or future actions?
I think not. I certainly don't at this point. I think tonight it was about receiving comment in the public hearing. So, that is something that I'd like to take under consideration.
Just a question, there were some comments on the sunset period. Was that to take a rate to be shut down instantly, immediately?
No.
What was the sunset period that you guys have?
It was crafted initially at 1 year, but it could be anything beyond
Yeah,
that.
okay. My understanding is 1 year is generally considered acceptable by the courts, so,
Thank
the
you for
policy
that.
is up to you guys, but.
Thank you. Thanks so much for that. Appreciate that. Yep. Okay. So it's back to the board. Oop. If you could press the button, hold it, and it goes off. Okay, so it's back to the board, and
If you had any comments.
well, no, I was just going to say that, I think what I'm hearing is a little more work needs to be done. We need to take everything under consideration. I so appreciate everybody's comments. I too am concerned about quality of life for the residents as well. And how do we strike that balance with something that, with the 16 properties that we currently have as short-term rentals with no complaint. What does that really look like for our community going forward? And then also, as other trustees have mentioned, taking the additional comments from the Planning and Zoning Board as well. So I'd like to close this out if there's.
Yeah, I just had one.
Okay, so one more comment. Yeah.
Darlene, no. Just the idea, a few things, right? I don't think conversations like this make our reputation any worse. I think conversations like this are what's supposed to be had in civil discourse. So.
Yeah, it's legislation, not the conversation. Love the conversation.
Yeah, and I think you get, right, and I think you get to this conversation by putting legislation in front of people, and it's regrettable, it's very regrettable that you have to put it down as the most restrictive when you may want to be less restrictive. But again, that I know I understand where I'm coming from, right? That
I don't.
I know, that's all right. But there's a few things about short-term rentals being part of the village, and I just want to say I think they should be too. I just think they should generally be in different areas. Punishing individuals who invested in our community, right? That was a comment as to why we should grandfather existing short-term rentals. And I just want to say there are people who feel that you're punishing the original investor, which is the resident, right? Other quick notes that I have. You can use, talking about litigation, I agree with somebody had mentioned, it might have been Mike or somebody else, but you can't legislate out of fear of litigation, right? That's what we have attorneys for, that's what we have conversations behind the scenes for. I mean, these things are considered. We recognize that you can always be sued, right? But it's not just by a business, but it's also by a resident, right? So residents can sue just as much as businesses can. You have to do what's right and what's appropriate within the law and be respectful to everybody. So we're trying to do all of that. At least I am. I think everybody is here too. That's all I got, really.
Okay.
One quick thing, Mayor. Somebody had mentioned that our STR visitors are ambassadors for our community. I agree, but there is no better ambassador for our community than residents that live here. And when you walk the streets and you ask people why they came to the Village of Pittsford and why they stay, you're going to get the great ambassadorship. So truly, to be a resident of this village, that is where our ambassadors come. Those people that come and visit, yeah, they love it here. But then, next year they're going to go to Miami. The next year they're going to go to Italy. They're travelers. So the true ambassadors are our residents.
Actually, that's not true.
Thank you.
We've had guests stay with us
Oh,
multiple times.
name and address, please.
Mark Armani at 58 State Street. So it's just so much bureaucracy, just the opinions and the comments and the things that people have said. You created a problem when it didn't exist. It just is so irrelevant. There has to be a villain in every story, and unfortunately, we've become the villains when we've actually only done good things for the community. I've heard my neighbor here say that with DW, I bought a home that was run down by a long-term rental, and I turned it into something beautiful. So I'll ask him a question. Did I increase the value of this home or take away from it? Because what was there was deterring anyone from wanting to live next to him, and now I do something beautiful that shouldn't be deterring. But it's beating the dead horse over the head And honestly, that's why I didn't even speak tonight, because it's just, you're speaking to someone that's already made up their mind, and you are the judge and the jury. You say that you want to listen, but you created a problem that didn't exist just to have a sense of meaning and importance, which really doesn't,
okay.
it's just so irrelevant.
Okay.
Your argument's irrelevant, your conversation's irrelevant, your comments are irrelevant.
Please, we're done on that. Okay, it's back to the board. We've all agreed that there's more work to do. And, oh, hang on, you're out of order, please. Point of order. Point of order. No more comments, please. It's back to the board. We've heard comments. We've heard comments. And I just don't want this to go off the rails. I think we all recognize there's a little more work to do here.
Yes.
We need to have other, the PZBA, the trustees have said they want the PZBA to weigh in. So we move on. The next item is the short-term rental legislation for the moratorium.
I'm sorry, we have situation in the hall.
Dave,
Oh.
Dave, you got that one?
No, he doesn't even know what's going on. He'll
Hang
just go
on.
see it.
Hang on.
Yeah, we have,
Let's,
Here, Alexandra's going to go check it out.
yeah,
Isn't good.
hey. That conversation is a risk.
take it outside, as we say. Okay, the next,
I'm sorry, did the board table this item?
yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
it's-
thank you.
I'm sorry, we should have specifically said that.
That's okay.
It is tabled. Yes,
Trying to
this
keep
item
up.
is tabled for now. Okay, next item up is short-term rental legislation moratorium.
I'm not
I
quite
make
sure
a-
why it had my name on it, but I'm happy.
Well,
This is a real easy one. We've got work to
Ty,
do.
you're it.
Right?
Ty, you're it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we have more work to do.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
we
that's
have
an
more
easy
work
one.
to do.
So
And
let's,
that being
yeah,
said,
open it.
I think everyone is in receipt of the information from an attorney, from our attorney.
Sorry, I think there's a point of order.
Yeah, we got to open.
Question.
We got to.
No,
Can I
we know we have to open the
close the-
meeting, but it's just,
Can I
It-
close the public hearing on the
I think it
short
was
term?
already.
we closed
already
it.
closed.
We did close
We
it.
did, no, we closed it. We're on to the next item. The next item up, it's just Lily saying that we wanted to revisit the moratorium because we know there's more work to do.
Yes.
Okay, with that being said, is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I make a motion to open the public hearing about extending the moratorium. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Aye.
Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, the public hearing is open. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter, specifically to this matter? Is there anyone online?
Nope.
I'm hearing crickets.
Make a motion to close the public hearing for the extension of the short-term rental
I
moratorium.
second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes. You're going to have to do seeker before you do it.
Yeah, we need seeker.
No, I'm sitting here thinking about it. I think that you've done seeker for this
Right.
once.
Oh, it's an extension.
It's just an
And
extension.
I think that you can just reaffirm the
The
seeker
existing,
findings from the previous adoption. And
but that should be a separate motion to reaffirm it. Okay,
I make a motion to reaffirm the prior seeker findings on the moratorium of short-term rentals in the village of Pittsburgh.
I second.
okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Lightgib.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, it's back to the board.
I make a motion to approve the short-term rental moratorium extension.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Marshall.
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Aye.
Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Can
I second.
What do we need?
Can I talk for a second?
Oh, we're going to hear from the attorney. I was too quick, you know.
Well, it's just for the board. This is going to take it on another 6 months. I would encourage the board not to use those 6 months.
Good. It gives us a little breathing room here
All
to
right.
circle
But I
back.
would
I agree.
get this kicked
Get this
off
done.
pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
Yep.
Thanks.
We're
Okay.
with you. Yeah, no,
Yeah, we all
thanks
wanted
for the reminder on that, Jeff. Appreciate it. I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Lanfair.
Aye.
Trustee Coe.
Aye.
Trustee Lightgib.
Aye.
Trustee Marshall. Mayor Plummer.
Aye.
Motion.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Dorothea, can I give you that?
Thanks for holding up the flag.